Conquest manual in another world. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 351, Obtaining the Floating Formation. The news of Xiao Yi's breakthrough quickly spread in the Xinhao camp under the instruction of Ling Li and other main leaders. When everyone knew that the first key training level 7 practitioner was born in the local area, they also understood the origin of the Fishan 59 Kai. Generally speaking, this has helped the morale of the camp. While many soldiers secretly examined the gap between themselves and Xiao Yi, they also began to practice harder in private. After all, soldiers are competitive and competitive. It is an instinct engraved in their bones. Many soldiers with 3 or even 2 spiritual roots were the pioneers of the army before the qualification test, and they don't like to fall behind. The command headquarters is encouraging this. This is a very healthy competition, which has a significant role in promoting the growth of the team's strength. 2 big Mo days passed in a flash. Time soon came to the day when the array antenna of Zhejiang City was handed over. The original installation time agreed by the rabbits and the Yang family was 3 big Mo days, which is about 20 days in the local area. However, everyone knows the character of the rabbits. In terms of infrastructure, they are completely hardworking and pragmatic. Especially the construction team that can be dispatched to the Great Mo realm, their quality and awareness are beyond reproach. Therefore, under the uninterrupted rush of work, the rabbits only spent less than 70% of the agreed construction period to complete the entire project. At this moment, Manying was taking the project's chief engineer Wang Jiaqi to do the final handover work with Yang Bali beside the antenna array. Shopkeeper Yang, the antenna equipment you need has now been debugged and you can check it at any time. This set of antenna arrays called Shunfinger can transmit sound up to 1,800 miles away, and in most cases, it can communicate through images. In addition, arrays called base stations have been set up within a range of 200 miles around Zhejiang City. You should know the location of the base station array, and you must send people to inspect it regularly. Yang Bali listened carefully at the side, and at the same time remembered what Manying said one by one in his heart. When Manying mentioned the base station array, he also nodded in understanding. After all, the base station is placed within the territory of Zhejiang City, and the installation must be approved by him. According to Manying, due to some special environmental influences, the Taosu Chamber of Commerce can only guarantee that there is no problem with voice communication. As for image transmission, it may not work well or even be unusable in some cases. But the base station formation is not the case. As long as it is within the range of the base station formation, both voice and image can be transmitted without any obstacles. Although voice communication can solve the problem in most cases. But if it can be communicated through images, then most people will definitely choose this method. From the previous example of the Mo family being deceived by the image beads, it can be seen that most people in the Great Mo realm firmly believe that videos cannot be photoshopped. It can be regarded as a simple folk custom. Then Yang Bali looked at the antenna array that was more than 30 meters high and asked Manying, "By the way, Ma, the shopkeeper, I wonder if you can answer the energy supply problem you mentioned before." When the 2 parties signed the cooperation intention before, Yang Bali had specifically asked about the consumption of the formation. After all, this formation is indeed very convenient, and its timeliness almost crushes all the known means at present. But if the cost of using it once is too high, then its value needs to be considered separately. At that time, Manying's reply was that the antenna array is a state that needs to be activated for a long time. The specific energy consumption is somewhat special. An actual demonstration of operation is required. He can only guarantee that the cost of this energy is very low, and the maintenance cost of each demo is about 100 lingshi. The cost of a single call at the 1,000-mile level is less than 1/100th of a lingshi, and the cost of a 100-mile level is almost negligible. Therefore, the 2 parties signed an acceptance agreement similar to a bet. If the actual expenditure of the array after the project is completed is higher than Manying's promise, then the entire transaction Zhejiang City has the right to unilaterally cancel. This kind of agreement is actually very common in reality, especially in industrial trade. In the early years, due to many special reasons, many imported equipment in our country could not enjoy this treatment. I have even been cheated many times, which can be said to be crying without tears. For example, In 1971, there was a super-large motor project in southern Shanghai. It was also one of the heart-level projects at the time, and a large number of imported processes were required. At that time, the Ministry of Machinery in Germany signed an agreement, which stipulated that bearings could not be about 20.7. What was the result? The Germans breached the contract and stuffed in a bunch of products with specifications above 22, and finally asked us for guidance fees $6,000 a day, and they left immediately if we didn't pay $6,000 in the 1970s. What is this concept? At that time, the rabbits were selling blood for foreign exchange. And for the same project, Malaysia could just throw away the contract and return the goods directly. There was no way. At that time, the Batumi regulations were pressing on our heads, and trade fairness was impossible for us. Because of this, when the rabbits later engaged in foreign trade, they often added clauses that allowed the other party to inspect the goods and not to charge if they were not satisfied. Only those who have been hurt can empathize and don't want to see similar things happen to others. This is also a manifestation of confidence and confidence in their own products. This is the case in the local area. The same is true for cross-border transactions. The trade rules and morality that should be followed must still be followed. This is also why Yang Bali has always had a good impression of the Teosu Chamber of Commerce, because he really felt sincerity in the rabbits. Indeed, the rabbits made more than double the profit in their trade with Zabeoxuan. But this profit comes from the difference in industrial capacity between the two worlds, not some shady money earned by crooked means. Haven't you seen that Zabeoxuan also made a lot of money in the previous trade? This kind of profit is inevitable from the intersection of the two worlds, and it is actually the same concept as the huge profits brought by the development of Mars and the Moon. It's just that the appearance of the light gate has caused the original aviation expenditure to become zero. It has turned the entire Damo world into a low-cost development process. If you don't take what God gives, you will be blamed. The site returned to the original place. Hearing Yang Boli's question, Moning smiled and said, "Shopkeeper Yang, this set of antenna arrays does not use spirit stones, but two mixed energy sources. One is called solar energy and the other is called electrical energy. Do you see the row of black iron sheets on the side? That's called a solar energy storage panel, a magic tool that can absorb sunlight. The specific principle is very complicated. In short, if you turn them on during the day, they will automatically receive the energy of sunlight. This row of large solar panels is more than enough to provide energy for the operation of the array during the daytime in Damo." Yang Bali looked in the direction of Moning. Sure enough, at the ground in the farthest corner, he saw a row of black iron plates slanting toward the sky. He nodded thoughtfully, and continued to ask, "Then Manager Yang, what is electrical energy?" Note, FAST's full load power consumption is 0.83 degrees per second, but it observes the universe hundreds of light years away at full load, and the power is mainly consumed in the control room and air conditioning. The antenna array mentioned in the article is only 830 kilometers. I found that it consumes about 700 degrees of electricity per day in the relay state. You can go to the science fiction category of the combat power list to have a look. It is ranked 18th. I have updated 45,000 words in 6 days, more than 7,500 words a day. I feel really uncomfortable today. I am going to the hospital for an IV drip or something. Chapter 352, Obtaining the Floating Formation. Electric energy. Hearing Yang Boli's words, Moning pointed to a set of power generation equipment not far away and said, "Shopkeeper Ma, do you see the object over there? It is called the electric power array. The name may be a bit difficult to pronounce. It is a special magic weapon belonging to our Fengling Yuan clan. According to our custom, its detailed name is a 2000 kilowatt generator set, a total of 2. Under normal circumstances, the power output of a generator set is enough for the antenna array to continue to work. This generator set needs to consume a kind of energy called diesel. 1 liter of diesel can generate about 3 degrees of electricity. And to maintain the normal operation of a formation, a big Mori needs about 10,000 degrees of electricity. From a theoretical point of view, the conceptual heat of 1 liter of diesel is 1.3515, and the conceptual heat of 1 degree of electricity is 0.1229. The theoretical power generation value is obtained by dividing the two. Therefore, 1 liter of diesel can theoretically generate about 10 degrees of electricity. Even if you search on Baidu, the answer you finally find is 9.8 degrees. But in fact, This is wrong, and the difference is huge. Because diesel generators have something called conversion efficiency, which is the so-called power loss. The conversion efficiency of a general diesel generator is 30% minus 40%, so 1 liter of diesel can actually generate 3.5 to 4.5 degrees of electricity. So sometimes some encyclopedias are really misleading. Many niche knowledge is obviously wrong, but it can't be corrected. Let's return to the original topic. The main power-consuming modules of an antenna device are divided into the antenna body, the control console, and the air conditioning temperature. Among them, the power consumption of the air conditioner is often even greater than that of the main body. For example, the most famous local Cayenne Sky Eye. Since the collapse of the Arecibo radio telescope, Cayenne Sky Eye has been one of the only remaining sky eyes in the world, and its reputation is still not small. It has a total area of 250,000 square meters and a diameter of more than 500 meters, and it has an extremely important task. By the way, the ticket price of Cayenne Sky Eye is only $50, and the flow is limited to 2,000 people per day. If you have a chance, you can go and have a look. It is much more interesting than the long legs of the girls on the internet. Cayenne Sky Eye consumes 0.83 degrees of electricity per second at full load, nearly 30,000 degrees a day. 60% of it is used for cooling. When the Sky Eye observed the waste of Orion, the device temperature could even reach nearly 200 degrees. The antenna array prepared by the rabbits for the Yang family covers an area of just over 10,000 square meters, which is 1/20th of the Sky Eye. In addition, it is mainly used for relaying signals rather than observation, so the daily power consumption is only more than 700 degrees. The power consumption of other base station equipment is almost 700 degrees. Of course, the daily here refers to local time, so the value reported by Monning is the cumulative value based on the Great Mori, that is, the local daily average x7. 1 Mori is 10,000 kilowatts-hour of electricity means 3,000 liters of diesel. Yang Bali read out a few quantifiers with some difficulty, and then asked, "Shopkeeper Ma, I wonder how much 1 liter of diesel costs? Or how many liters of diesel can 1 spirit stone buy?" Monning heard this, a gleam of light flashed in his eyes, and a simple, friendly and sincere smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. "Shopkeeper Yang, I won't hide it from you. Diesel is a very rare raw material, and there are not many behind the Shanghai mountains. I won't talk about the cost. Anyway, if you want it, I'll give you a discount as an acquaintance. 1 spirit stone. 20 liters, then Monning paused and added, "Shopkeeper Yang, I can guarantee you. As long as the antenna formation can work normally, you can use the remote call function unlimited times. As many times as you want, as long as you want." Yang Boli's eyes turned slightly, and he began to calculate in his heart. 1 spirit stone is 20 liters of diesel. The fuel consumption of a damori is about 150 spirit stones. To be honest, this price is not cheap. It is already the family expenditure of some ordinary small city families for 1.5 months. But the account is not calculated by focusing on the expenditure alone. First of all, according to what Monning said, during the day, solar panels can be used to provide energy for the Big Mori, and the Big Mori at night needs to turn on the electricity. That is to say, only half of the days in a year need to use the generator set for power supply, and the annual expenditure is about 4,000 spiritual stones. 4,000 spiritual stones. In exchange, the 1,000 miles sound transmission node can only be used 4 times. However, when the antenna array is operating normally, it provides unlimited opportunities for use. Zabeoksuan has more than 70 large and medium-sized branches in the entire southern region, and nearly 100 small branches. There are also more traveling caravans and carriages and horse companies. Yang Bali has been the shopkeeper of Zabeoksuan for more than 30 years. In his memory, he has encountered countless businesses that he missed because he failed to grasp first-hand information. Some businesses are not large in size, so his chief clerk is reluctant to waste the sound transmission node. For example, a city that specializes in a certain type of spiritual plant is destroyed by the beast tide, and that type of spiritual plant will rise slightly in a short period of time. Although there is a profit, it is only a small increase. If the operation is done properly, it may be possible to make a profit of several hundred or 1 or 2,000 spirit stones. After deducting the cost of the sound transmission and labor, it may not be possible to make much money, and it may even be a loss. Therefore, most of the chief clerks below will choose to ignore the news and give up the opportunity to make a small profit. There are also some semicolons who do not have the sound transmission in their hands, and they have completely lost the possibility of making a big profit. In the past 30 years, the former has occurred dozens of times almost every year, and the frequency of beast-tides has increased in recent years. It is not uncommon to appear hundreds of times in such a vast place as the South region. Although the number of the latter is not large, it is almost a big business every time. On average, Zabaoxuan misses at least 100,000 spirit stones every year, which is still the most conservative estimate. And now, as long as you spend 4,000 spirit stones, you can pocket such a large part of the business. If Yang Bali does not do it, will he still be worthy of the identity of the head shopkeeper of Zabaoxuan? More importantly, just like the resale of the Happy Stick, this kind of communication equipment is not impossible to resell. Although Yang Bali has not yet formulated a specific plan. But in the past few days, he has had a vague idea in his mind. There are hundreds of chambers of commerce that travel to or stay in Zhejiang City all year round, and these chambers of commerce have 1 or 2 branches in other cities. What if I give them 100 spirit stones to communicate once? Each chamber of commerce has different channels, and it is entirely possible that some small and profitable business opportunities will appear. As long as 40 people use it a year, the expenditure on the antenna array can be completely transferred out. Thinking of this, Yang Bali had no other opinions. No problem, shopkeeper Ma, let's make a deal at the price you mentioned. Note, there is another update today, and the promised 3 updates are here in full. Are you surprised or surprised? Here are the 3 updates. I'm fine after the drip. Chapter 353, Obtaining the Floating Formation. Looking at Yang Bali, who didn't bargain, Ma Ning blinked slightly, somewhat surprised. He had been prepared for the other party to bargain, but he didn't expect Yang Bali to think for a long time and finally directly agree to the rabbit's offer. You know, diesel affects more than just this transaction. With the rabbit's technical reserves, it is not difficult to transport a set of small thermal power generation equipment to guide the Yang family to burn coal for power generation in the future. The purpose of the rabbits providing diesel is to make a fortune in fuel. It is foreseeable that Yang Bali, or the Yang family of Zhejiang City, will experience the benefits of the antenna array in a very short time. And the convenience brought by this benefit is bound to prompt the Yang family to further expand the base station. As long as there is a need to expand the base station in the future, the expenditure on diesel will increase several times. It will become a large and continuous income. At this time, every extra spirit stone may turn into a huge number in the long run. But no matter what, it is always a good thing that Yang Bali does not bargain, so Ma Ning gladly accepted the other party's good intentions. Afterwards, the 2 sides briefly exchanged some operational links and introduced some basic information. It was also agreed that the Taosu Chamber of Commerce would leave a 5-member long-term guidance team in Zhejiang City to provide technical assistance and guidance for some special situations that might arise. After all matters were settled, Ma Ning and Wang Jiaqi guided Yang Bali to the control console and pressed the start button. As the start switch was pressed, the antenna array emitted a special wave frequency, and the radio wave quickly connected to each base station. A local area network was formed. Then Yang Bali took out a communication device and entered a certain agreed channel number. After a while, the figure of a middle-aged man appeared on the screen. This man was in his 40s, with a wisp of goatee, dressed in the clothes of a chief clerk, and a green headscarf pinned at the back of his hair. Yang Bali waved at this person and asked, "Sons Hubo, can you hear me?" After a few seconds, the chief clerk in the video nodded and replied, "I can hear you, I can hear you." Shopkeeper Yang, "I'm already at the city gate." Yang Bali thought for a moment and said, "Clerk son, please move aside and show me the scene at the city gate." Chief son bowed respectfully, then flashed and revealed the scene behind him. This is the entrance to a city that is larger than Chixin City, with a wall height of about 20 meters. There are not many people at the city gate, and you can see the 3 Chinese characters Pingbo City written on the entrance. Yang Bali nodded with satisfaction. This chief son was a loyal subordinate sent by Yang Bali after the rabbits arrived at Zhejiang City. He was carrying a communication device that the rabbits had already debugged. Yang Bali sent him to Pingbo City, which is more than 1,500 miles away from Zhejiang City, and he stayed at the city gate all the time. The purpose is to verify the effect of the antenna formation today. Afterwards, Yang Bali connected with the other 7 chief clerks who were sent out to understand the situation one by one. Among the 8 chief clerks, including Chief Clerk's son, a total of 6 people were able to send clear images. And the whole process was extremely smooth. The image of one person was relatively stuck, and the remaining one could not display the image due to signal problems. However, even for the chief clerk who could not display the image, there was no problem with the voice communication. They could communicate clearly at a distance of thousands of miles. At this point, the effect of the antenna formation was already very obvious. Seeing this, Yang Bali raised a smile that he could not suppress. This kind of loss of control of facial expressions is not common in people like him. Then he happily bowed to Moning, "Shopkeeper Ma, the antenna formation is very effective, and I am very satisfied. The foundation of Teosu Chamber of Commerce is indeed extraordinary." Then he seemed to remember something and patted his head with his right hand. "Oh, look at my memory. I was so busy looking at the formation that I haven't given you the promised reward." Moning didn't expose his drama, but waved his hand like a supporting actor. "Hey, why are you in such a hurry? Shopkeeper Yang, you are too polite." As he spoke, 3 space bags of different colors appeared in Yang Boli's hands. Then he handed the space bag to Moning. "Shopkeeper Ma, the green space bag contains the spirit stones we agreed on, a total of 300,000. The blue space bag contains the flesh and blood of the 4th level monster. I specially asked for 2 more pieces, but they are not the key parts, please don't mind. As for this purple space bag, it contains the core of the floating formation. The items are valuable, and I would like to trouble you to inspect the goods. After there are no problems, we will sign a receipt. Brothers should also settle accounts clearly." Yang Boli's attitude was very sincere, and Moning also had this idea. He simply went with the flow and stopped being polite. After taking the space bag, he handed it to Wei Qiangsheng beside him and said softly, "President Qiangsheng, thank you for your trouble." Compared with Moning's casualness, Wei Qiangsheng's expression at this time was much more serious. He looked like he was going to the battlefield. Although he was the main person in charge of the Wei family caravan and had a lot of experience. But it was the first time in his life that he was involved in such a business with hundreds of thousands of spirit stones, an actual value of over 1 million. He carefully took the space bags and began to identify them one by one. He identified the 3 space bags for a quarter of an hour before he looked up tiredly. He organized his words and said to Moning, "Master Ma ahem, Shopkeeper Ma, the number of spirit stones is fine. The monster should be level 4, and the floating array is also genuine." Moning nodded with relief. Before Wei Qiangsheng set off, he was specially taken to the laboratory and had close contact with the flesh and blood of a level 3 monster. According to the information obtained by the rabbits, the pressure of the flesh and blood of a level 4 monster is completely different from that of a level 3 monster, so his judgment of the flesh and blood of the monster should be credible. As for the spirit stones, let alone counting the numbers. As for the floating array, it has been mentioned before. This time, the rabbits came to Zikyong City on the Yang family's flying boat, and it was the kind of special line treatment. Perhaps because of their confidence in the array. The rabbits on the flying boat were allowed to see the situation in the core control cabin up close. Wei Qiangsheng can be sure that the rune distribution of the array in the space bag is exactly the same as that in the control cabin. With Wei Qiangsheng's appraisal results as a guarantee. In addition, the Yang family will rely on the rabbit's happy sticks for resale in the future, so the 3 space bags that Yang Bali took out are most likely genuine. Thinking of this, Moning couldn't help but smile. The floating array, the rabbits are eagerly looking forward to it. He warmly bowed to Yang Bali, "Shopkeeper Yang, since the things are fine, then let's sign a receipt." Yang Bali also returned the greeting enthusiastically, and then took out a bamboo slip from his body. After spreading out a bamboo slip, he signed his name on it first, and then handed it to Moning. "Shopkeeper Ma, would you like to take a look? If there is no problem, just sign below." Moning took the bamboo slip and read the text on it carefully. As a top local linguist, during this period of time, Moning not only mastered the language of the Great Mo realm, but also had a better understanding of the Great Mo realm's characters than everyone else. Therefore, he had no pressure to read the bamboo slips. The content on the bamboo slips was very simple and objective. It basically summarized the agreement between the 2 parties, without any exaggeration. Yang Boli's signature was already on the place representing Zabeoksun, and Moning saw this and wrote his name from the Great Mo realm, Fengling Yuang, Zhang San. The document was made in 2 copies, and each party kept 1 copy. Of course, The document actually has little legal significance, but it has more symbolic significance. Because the Great Mo realm does not have a so-called trade arbitration agency, if you are really cheated, you can basically only rely on your own strength to reason. After signing the document, Ma Ning suddenly thought of something and asked Yang Bali, "Shopkeeper Yang, I wonder about the quota for going to Yaok that we mentioned before." "Oh, that thing." Hearing Ma Ning mention the quota, Yang Bali couldn't help but show a trace of apology on his face. "I'm really sorry, Shopkeeper Ma. I'm afraid I can't give you a quota this time. The situation on the front line is tight. So many elders want to take the opportunity to go to Yaok to see the younger generation." Ma Ning nodded calmly while listening. Just when Yang Bali thought he was ready to accept the fact, Ma Ning suddenly said something that made his heart almost stop. "Shopkeeper Yang, if our Chamber of Commerce is sure to help that adults survive the nascent soul tribulation, then can you approve a few quotas for us? Recommend a book. Drawing the Sword is the Truth by Chengfang Yujian. The author is appointed by a great god, and the quality can still be guaranteed. His last book was released at the same time as ours. Now my book has 980,000 words, and his book has been completed with 1.5 million words. He has written nearly 300,000 words for the new book. The tentacle monster is so terrifying." Chapter 354, The Nascent Soul Realm About to Break Through. As the head of Zabaoksun, Yang Boli's mentality was almost flawless. Even when the transaction involving millions of spirit stones such as the antenna array was completed, he just slightly failed to control his emotions, and a hint of an uncontrollable smile appeared on his face. But at this moment, this big man who remained calm even when facing a collapse of Mount Tai was looking at Ma Ning in astonishment. His mouth seemed to be big enough to swallow a goose egg. The corners of his eyes, eyebrows, and beard were all trembling uncontrollably, and he looked like Wu Laoer who had seen Song Dandan. After a full half a minute, Yang Bali came back to his senses. Swish, he saw him wave his hand. A soundproof formation that was also precious in the third level was instantly pulled up, forming a visible gray barrier around him. At the same time, another talisman made of blood quietly turned into flying ash and passed the message to Yang Wanli, who was also in the family. Then he stared at Ma Ning. His tone even had a bit of ferocity and doubt. "Shopkeeper Ma, how did you know about this? Not long ago, both sides used you as a respectful address, but in the blink of an eye, it was changed to you. Tell the truth." In that moment just now, Yang Bali even had the idea of leaving Ma Ning and others behind. The reason is simple. Because Ma Ning said the truth. Just as he said, there is indeed a cultivator who is ready to break through the Yuanying realm in the Yang family mansion now. But the identity and existence of that big man are top secrets in the family, and are one of the deepest foundations of the Yang family. Because there are too many things involved in a Yuanying realm. In the eyes of the general public, the Yuanying realm has not appeared for hundreds of years. For example, there is a record in the letter left by Wei Siming that the last time a Yuanying realm cultivator appeared in the south region was sometime more than 300 years ago. When Wei Siming wrote this last letter, he was preparing to go through the great catastrophe of the Jiandan realm, which is the 9th level of the foundation building realm. The cultivators who have reached the perfect stage of foundation building have only seen a Yuanying sword cultivator once in Yaok. The mystery and rarity of the Yuanying realm can be seen from this. In some higher level fields, such as the level that the Yang family can access, the Yuanying realm is definitely not a common commodity. There is no need to talk about Yaok. Yaok gathers the top cultivators in the entire Damo world. It is like comparing Beijing, Shanghai and Guangzhou with ordinary prefecture-level cities. There is no reference value. In addition to Yaok, in the entire Damo world, only in the strongest region of the East region can you hear about the news of the Yuanying realm relatively frequently. Not to mention the South region. Among the 7 core cities in the entire South region, only Anhui city behind Tingayan Pavilion and another city have Yuanying ancestors. And they are not on the South region at this time. If the Yang family can give birth to a Yuanying, it can be said that the pattern of the entire South region will change. The founding ancestor of Ziqiang city is a Yuanying level 5 cultivator. Before he passed away, he left behind a rare treasure that can increase the chance of his descendants breaking through the Yuanying by about 20%. The value of this rare treasure is self-evident. And the key is that it can only be used once. Therefore, the descendants of the Yang family never dared to use this method easily, for fear of wasting this only chance. Until 200 years ago, A genius with a single spiritual root was born in the main line of the Yang family. This genius was the second son of the head of the Yang family that generation, with a single spiritual root of water attribute, named Yang Zhengchu. This person has been singing all the way since his first practice, breaking through various realms one after another. He became the youngest foundation-building realm practitioner in the history of the Yang family. There's even a record of a foundation-building realm level 8 counter-killing a core-forming realm level 1 practitioner, which can be called a peerless genius. More than 100 years ago, Yang Zhengchu broke through the core-forming realm. While becoming the youngest core-forming realm practitioner in the Yang family, Yang Zhengchu was also transferred to the dark and became the invisible guardian of the Yang family. About 10 years ago, Yang Zhengchu broke through to the 9th level of the core-forming realm and began to prepare for the condensation of the nascent soul. Yang Zhengchu's talent is amazing, and the demon world has been changing frequently in recent years. Therefore, under the decision of several of the oldest celebrities in the clan, it was decided to give the rare treasure of the ancestor of the Yang family to Yang Zhengchu to help him break through the nascent soul realm. But perhaps it was because of his smooth sailing in the first half of his life, Yang Zhengchu encountered difficulties for the first time in front of the nascent soul realm. He was better than Mo Pidong and successfully passed the heart demon tribulation. But the tribulation from the core formation realm to the nascent soul realm is not just the heart demon tribulation. After Yang Zhengchu passed the heart demon tribulation, he was stuck in front of another critical and fatal thunder tribulation. Thunder tribulation, Gloom Mickey means. It is a thunderbolt on the top of the head. If you pass it, you can advance. If you can't pass it, you will be dead. There is no other choice. Even in the ancient times when spiritual energy was abundant, thunder tribulation was not an easy level. According to ancient records, the success rate of thunder tribulation in ancient times was about 50%. That is, 50-50, half of the people can live to drink the cappuccino poured by the ant. Now, as the concentration of spiritual energy decreases, the difficulty of the realm tribulation has suddenly increased by unknown times. For example, Wei Siming at the time. In ancient times, others could break through the giant tribulation with their eyes closed, but it became the last scene of Wei Siming's life. Not to mention the nascent soul realm. The Damo realm is vast. Although the 9th level of Jinden has been rare for hundreds of years, Yang Zhengchu is not the only one. According to the information collected by the Yang family, in the past 500 years, about 30 or 49th level Jinden realms have reached the stage of thunder tribulation. These 9th level Jinden realms are open or secret. Some choose to cross the tribulation secretly, while others are open and honest, inviting all forces to come to watch the ceremony. Of course, the final viewing ceremony became a funeral, and the funeral was held on the spot. Among the known 30 or 49th level Jinden realms, no one has ever crossed the thunder tribulation. Although Yang Zhengchu has the rare treasures left by the ancestor of the Yang family, and he has collected some treasures himself over the years. But in terms of probability, the possibility is only a little over 30%. Therefore, Yang Zhengchu and the Yang family have been stalling for time, either waiting until all the means are complete and the control is high, and it can be done in one go. Or there will be a major change in Yaok, and there is no way to retreat, so they have to risk their lives. Therefore, over the years, the existence of Yang Zhengchu has always been the deepest secret of the Yang family. In the entire Yang family, no more than 7 people know about this. If it weren't for Yang Bali being the head of Zabaoksun, the mobilization of various top materials could not be concealed from him. Yang Bali might not be qualified to know about this until his death. So the question is, how did Taosu Chamber of Commerce know about this? And is what Moning said about being able to help Yang Zhengchu overcome the tribulation true or false? Note, it's a bit too much to update 3 times in a row. I will update 2 times today to keep healthy, and continue to update 3 times tomorrow. Some readers have reported that they can't understand the bestseller list, so here is some popular science. The current bestseller list is real-time starting from 12 noon every day, so the real feedback on the bestseller ranking must be after 11 o'clock at night. Don't look for books between 12 noon and 12 o'clock in the evening. Some Krypton Gold parties will use time to mix up the rankings. Chapter 355, The Country is in Danger, So Terrifying. Although Moning didn't know about Yang Boli's psychological fluctuations that were comparable to those in a BTV drama, he could easily judge from his expression and previous words. The head shopkeeper of Zabeoksun was probably in a state of mind similar to being a father. In fact, this was normal. After all, Ma Ning's words were too lethal. If this sentence were put in the mainland, it would be almost the beginning of 1964, when the rabbits were humming and tinkering with the big eyes. As a result, someone ran over and said, "Tuesday, I can help you solve the problem of ignition and detonation. Do you want to trade?" The shock must be greater than the surprise. The rabbits knew that a cultivator in the Yang family was about to break through the nascent soul, which was actually related to Yang Bali. In the past period of time, while operating tape building, Gu Junming's team did not forget to collect various intelligence. The sources of this intelligence are mainly two aspects. One is the recording equipment in the private room. The other is the miniature cameras in other places in the city. Out of love for stinky tofu and attention to Teosu Chamber of Commerce, Yang Bali was very considerate of tape building, and many internal and external activities of Zabeoksun were held in tape building. In addition, the quality of tape building's dishes was very good. As a result, many private dinners between the chief clerks were also fixed in tape building. When people drink and eat, they often leak some words, talking about some business secrets or gossip. Therefore, in the past period of time, tape building has collected a lot of language samples. Of course, these language samples did not analyze much at the beginning, because they covered too wide a range. There were almost all kinds of events from all over the world. The serious ones were the market conditions in the industry or the low prices in the city, and the unserious ones were the friendship between Guan and Bao. Therefore, at the beginning, the rabbits could only extract relatively important regional information to enrich the intelligence database. The real turning point came in the previous transaction of monster materials. At that time, Ma Ning admitted that the beast tied in Xiaolianzi Mountain was the work of Teosu Chamber of Commerce, but Yang Boli's reaction was very surprising. He really didn't know that this was done by the rabbits before. This is a bit intriguing. You know, the rabbits initially expected that 2 to 3 months after the little lotus seed beast tide was annihilated, the leaders of Zhejiang City, represented by Yang Bali, would react to the fact that this was done by the Teosu Chamber of Commerce. And there is a high probability that they would send spies to Chixin City to collect intelligence. Because the traces left by gunpowder are too obvious. People who have never come into contact with it may not be able to guess it, but Yang Bali, who comes into contact with happy sticks every day, can recognize it as traces of ammunition as long as he arrives at the scene. So the rabbits made some series of preparations and waited for the spies to come. As a result, it is now discovered that not only did the spies not come, but Yang Bali did not even judge that this was the work of the Teosu Chamber of Commerce. You know, although there is no clear territorial division between the 7 cities in the southern region, they still tacitly agree on several lines. The area where Little Lotus Seed Mountain is located is obviously under the jurisdiction of Zhejiang City. As the saying goes, how can you allow others to snore beside your bed? The annihilation of a beast tide with many third-level early-stage monsters would theoretically attract the attention of Zhejiang City. However, Yang Bali only knew that the beast tide of Xiaolianzi Mountain was annihilated, but he did not put his mind on exploring the forces that did this big thing. It either means that he is a figurehead, or that there is something else that has distracted his mind. To be honest, there are not many things that can make Yang Bali ignore the third-level beast tide. There are a total of 7 third-level monsters in the beast tide of Xiaolianzi Mountain, 2 of which are close to the third-level middle stage. Therefore, the forces that have the ability to annihilate this beast tide have at least 3 practitioners in the middle stage of Jinden. From this, it can be judged that the things that have attracted Yang Boli's attention are at least related to the late stage of Jinden, or even higher. With a general direction, the command center began to screen the information of Tay Tower again. With the help of the supercomputer. 5 days ago, the analysis team discovered a category that was often mentioned by the chief clerks in their casual chats: high-level fire attribute materials. At the same time, a camera outside Zabeoksun showed that there was a person who frequently visited Zabeoksun periodically, and his expression was extremely hurried. And the camera showed many times that the position of the space bag before and after this person entered and exited changed. And the identity of this person was surprisingly an elder of the Yang Mansion. The cycle of 1 or 2 Damo days is obviously not like checking accounts. If there is something that needs to be notified to Yang Bali temporarily, it is unlikely to come once in a while. So if nothing unexpected happens, this person is likely to be transporting something regularly. After locking these two pieces of information, the command center began to analyze the usage of its high-level fire attribute materials. There are not many uses for fire attribute materials. In the Dhamma world, most of them are used to refine weapons for attack and killing or pills for breaking through the realm. Another special detail is that the fire attribute formation will relatively restrain the thunder tribulation. And there will be no thunder tribulation when the middle stage of the Jinden realm enters the late stage, that is, the 6th level enters the 7th level. Only when the 9th level of the Jinden realm is promoted to the Yuanying stage, the cultivator will encounter an extremely difficult thunder tribulation. Finally, the think tank came to a conclusion: the Yang family is most likely preparing resources for a big shot, trying to break through the Jinden realm and condense the nascent soul. This is actually normal. Although the strongest person in the Yang family is the 8th level of the Jinden realm, there is no perfect Jinden cultivator. But this kind of news is just like a writer from Kidian saying that he is a newcomer and a new book. Just believe it on the surface. How could a family that can be passed down for more than 1,000 years not have a backup? Even the rabbits suspected at the beginning that more than one person in the Yang family was about to break through the Jinden realm. Then the command center used this as a starting point to screen the genealogy of the Yang family. Unlike the Wei family and the Mo family, the Yang family has been passed down for thousands of years, and the deeds of many clansmen are public. It is even written into the clan's elementary school like a textbook. Rather than saying it is an ancestor, it is better to say that it is a great man who is admired. Just like most of the local surname lint say that they are descendants of Began, respect is actually a little higher than blood identity. Therefore, the rabbits did not spend too much effort to collect information about many ancestors of the Yang family. After screening, the command center finally locked on 3 ancestors of the Yang family, including Yang Zhangchu. Coincidentally, the way Yang Zhangchu fell was similar to that of Moshe Onan. Both were killed by the beast tide, and there seemed to be no problem in the process. But under the targeted screening of the rabbits, Yang Zhangchu became one of the key suspicious objects. It's not that the rabbits found any traces. The place where Yang Zhangchu's fall was far away from Zikyong City, and more than 100 years had passed. It would be strange to find any traces. What attracted the attention of the rabbits was mainly his single spiritual root qualification, which was an absolute protagonist level qualification. If anyone in the Yang family was most likely to be promoted to the nascent soul, it must be Yang Zhangchu. As for the thunder tribulation, the rabbits did have some ideas. Therefore, after a series of detailed discussions, a bold plan was born. The execution of this plan, that is, the task of uncovering this secret, was naturally handed over to Moning. To be honest, this task is not easy, and it may even be life-threatening. But Moning still chose to take this heavy stick. He was betting that Yang Bali would not dare to touch him. And the confidence that gave him the weight was the Teosu Chamber of Commerce, or the country behind him. Just as Yang Bali stared at Moning in doubt, a sound of breaking through the air suddenly came from the distance. Yang Wanli has arrived. And from the trajectory of his actions, Yang Wanli seems to be more than just the first level of the Jinden realm. I also received a custom article. Although it is a short story, it is also money. Chapter 356: The Yang Family's Decision. In the information previously acquired by the rabbits, Yang Boli's realm is the 8th level of foundation building, while Yang Wanli, the head of the family, is a cultivator at the 1st level of the Jinden realm. Yang Bali is a little younger than the purple-robed old man who died during the siege of Qi County City, about 60 to 65 years old. Yang Wanli is about 10 years older than Yang Bali, in his early 70s. Zikyong City, as one of the 7 core cities in the southern region, has abundant resources. Whether it is the original Qi County City or Yangbai City, the total is probably less than 1,000th of Zikyong City. Therefore, the rabbits think tank once made a guess. Yang Boli's realm may be fine. After all, he has been responsible for various business dealings for a long time, and perhaps he really doesn't have much time to practice. But Yang Wanli's cultivation is likely to be hidden. It's just that the rabbits didn't have enough evidence to prove this before, so it was temporarily listed as a subject to be observed. But with the appearance of Yang Wanli at this time, this guess was unexpectedly confirmed. Because a layer of purple light can be clearly seen around Yang Wanli. This light is called Tao Yun. Dao Yun can only appear in practitioners above the 4th level of Jinden stage, which is the most basic process before condensing Yuanying. In other words, Yang Wanli's realm is at least above the 4th level of Jinden stage. looking at Yang Wanli flying from a distance. For a moment, Ma Ning even had a question in his mind: is this Yang family patriarch really just a dual spiritual root aptitude? However, this question did not last long, and was dispelled by the momentum of Yang Wanli's roar. At this moment, Yang Wanli's already majestic expression became more solemn, looking like Kangxi who scolded his ministers at the beginning, or teacher Chen Daoming. He landed lightly on the ground, and the Daoyun was put away. His eyes quickly swept around, and then asked Yang Bali, "Bali, what happened?" Yang Wanli was originally practicing in the mansion. When he was adjusting his breath, he suddenly found that a talisman in his sleeve was burning. This talisman is very cheap, but it is barely the first level, and it is a standard common item. But its burning properties were unusual. This meant that a major incident involving Yang Zhengchu had occurred, and it was extremely urgent. Therefore, Yang Wanli did not dare to neglect it and hurried over, without even having time to put away his Daoyun. Hearing his brother's question, Yang Bali adjusted his breath and repeated what Ma Ning had said before: "Brother, shopkeeper Ma just found me and proposed an idea. That is, if the clan can give Taozu Chamber of Commerce a few places to go to Yaok, shopkeeper Ma and his people are willing to help the fifth uncle break through." The fifth uncle of the Yang family mentioned by Yang Bali refers to Yang Zhengchu. Hearing this, Yang Wanli's eyes suddenly flashed with a trace of astonishment, and he was obviously extremely shocked. But after all, as the head of the Yang family, Yang Wanli did not lose his composure for too long like his brother. He was silent for a while, then stared at Yang Bali with a serious expression and asked, "Bali, did you tell shopkeeper Ma about the news of the fifth uncle?" Yang Bali quickly shook his head. "My foolish brother has never mentioned anything about a fifth uncle. If you don't believe me, you can use the heart-searching talisman." The heart-searching talisman is an extremely precious third-level talisman. Its effect is somewhat similar to the truth serum in Harry Potter, which can detect whether a person is lying. However, its activation conditions are a bit more stringent, and the activator must have a non-resistance mentality. This kind of talisman can only be refined by a perfect practitioner of the Jinden realm who has passed the heart demon tribulation. It involves some spiritual power and is much rarer and more expensive than the sword energy talisman. Yang Wanli glanced at his brother lightly. To be honest, he still trusts Yang Bali very much. After all, they are born of the same mother and know his temperament and personality very well. But Yang Zhengchu's existence really involves too many things. Even if he can pass this level easily, it will be difficult to explain to the other elders. Therefore, it was almost inevitable to use the heart-searching talisman at that time, and even he, the head of the family, would be implicated. However, this was not the time to talk about responsibility. Yang Wanli was more concerned about how to deal with this matter. Then he looked at Ma Ning deeply, called a person from the side, and said to Ma Ning, "Shopkeeper Ma, this matter is of great importance and needs careful discussion. The antenna array is time-consuming and labor-intensive. I believe you are already physically and mentally exhausted. Why don't you go to the side room with Steward Wang to rest for a while?" Ma Ning looked up at the person who came. He was actually quite familiar with this person. It was the head steward of the Yang family who often went in and out of Zibaoxuan. Then he politely bowed and said, "Then I'll trouble Steward Wang." Ma Ning was not in a relaxed mood at this time, and could even be said to be a little nervous. But he knew that he had a heavy responsibility on his shoulders, so he almost gritted his teeth and put on a calm expression. Once he showed his cowardice, all his plans would fail. Yang Wanli's reaction was within the expectations of him or the think tank. It is said that he was taken to the side room to rest, but in fact, his personal freedom was temporarily restricted. One could not say for sure, those sumptuous dishes might become the last meal before execution. Of course, the probability of this happening is not high. After Ma Ning was taken away, Yang Wanli was silent for a moment and activated another talisman. At the same time, he cast a spell and took Yang Bali to the ancestral temple of the Yang family. After arriving at the ancestral temple, Yang Wanli used some means again, and finally came to an extremely hidden secret room after many twists and turns. After about a quarter of an hour, 5 figures appeared in the secret room silently. There were 4 men and 1 woman, all of whom looked over 50 years old, and their aura and appearance were quite amazing. These 5 people were the strongest people of the Yang family except Yang Zhengchu, and their realms were all no lower than the 7th level of the Jinden realm. 2 of them were in the open, and 3 were in the dark, which was the deepest foundation of the entire Yang family. After several people appeared, one of the tall, one-eyed old men spoke first. Wanli, you hurriedly summoned us here, but what happened in the clan? Or did something big happen in Yaok? This man was called Yang Wanke, a common name, but his cultivation was extraordinary. He was at the 7th level of the Jiandan realm, and was the second strongest person in the Yang family. Yang Wanli first performed the etiquette of a junior to Yang Wanke and others, and then took out a talisman. Swish, he lit it with a flick of his finger. Seeing the moment the talisman burned, the only woman among the 5 people suddenly fixed her eyes and blurted out a word, self-searching talisman. Yang Wanli nodded slightly, then put the self-searching talisman on Yang Bali's chest and said, Bali, repeat what you said before. Yang Bali let the talisman burn on his chest and said calmly, this matter starts with the antenna formation. Then he told the whole story from beginning to end. Several elders of the Yang family were not unfamiliar with the existence of Taosu Chamber of Commerce, and even knew it very well. After all, the floating array involves the only 3 large flying boats in the entire Yang family. It is impossible to trade without the decision of the elders. Therefore, the 5 people present quickly followed Yang Boli's thinking and gradually figured out the reason why Yang Wanli took the initiative to activate the questioning heart talisman. After listening to Yang Boli's retelling, the secret room suddenly fell into a short silence. The 5 elders had different expressions, some frowned, some looked shocked. Others had deep eyes, and I don't know what they were thinking. After a while, an old man with white hair and beard spoke. This person is the strongest person in the Yang family, Yang Wenbing, who is at the 8th level of the Jiandan realm. Bully, are you sure you haven't told Taozu Chamber of Commerce about this? Note, Happy Mid-Autumn Festival everyone. There may be another chapter later, and I will try not to take a leave today. Here are some things that readers are curious about. First of all, the custom article is not the king's, and secondly, it is not going to cut this book to write custom. That is a very short custom article, just a few thousand words, which will not affect the update volume. Chapter 357 The Yang Family's Decision. Facing Yang Wenbing's question, Yang Bali took a deep breath and said solemnly, Uncle, ancestors are above. I am willing to guarantee with my life that I have never revealed anything about my 5th uncle. Looking at Yang Boli's determined face and the heart-searching talisman on his chest that was not abnormal at all, Yang Wenbing couldn't help but fall into silence. After a long while, he slowly asked, Bali, how do you think Taosu Chamber of Commerce knew about the 5th uncle? Was it leaked by some other link, or did they guess it themselves? Yang Bali was stunned at first, and then he reacted. What Yang Wenbing meant by this means that he has believed his statement. At least he doesn't need to have a cesarean section to prove how many bowls of noodles he eats. Then he suppressed his excitement, thought seriously, and said, to my uncle, rather than making mistakes in the links, I personally think that Taosu Chamber of Commerce may be the existence of my 5th uncle who I have speculated. Then he repeated the operations of Moning and others during the time in the market, and continued, the origin of Taosu Chamber of Commerce is mysterious and unusual. I have experienced their deduction ability many times. It is indeed far beyond the reach of ordinary people. Every time I talk about business with the other party seems to be able to guess where my nephew will go next. With just a simple confrontation, he can offer an irresistible price. When the transaction is completed and I return to the mansion to review, I will find that a certain step is so exquisite and rewarding. I even have a strange feeling that every time I talk to it, it is not just Ma or Gu who talk to me. I seem to be playing a game with thousands of experienced business veterans at the same time. Looking at Yang Bali who was talking freely, another bald old man frowned. Bully, this may just be your personal opinion, and it can't be taken seriously. You are probably in the middle of the situation and don't know the whole picture, so you feel confused. The bald old man was the shopkeeper of the previous 2 generations of Zabeoksun, and he had a relatively complete set of business logic. Therefore, he was contemptuous of other chambers of commerce. Yang Boli was about to refute when he heard this, but Yang Wanli pulled his clothes and spoke first. 9 Uncle, whether Boli's situation is true or exaggerated, it is not very meaningful to discuss it at this time. What we should do now is to come up with a solution as soon as possible, rather than arguing whether the other party has the ability to know the existence of the 5th uncle. As soon as Yang Wanli said this, the scene fell into silence. Just as he said, whether Taozu Chamber of Commerce has any mysterious singularity or not, it can't affect the established fact that Taozu Chamber of Commerce already knows the existence of Yang Zhengchu. Therefore, instead of thinking about how Taozu Chamber of Commerce found out, it is better to focus on the solution. Of course. This is also a way for Yang Wenli to protect his younger brother. After all, if we go deeper, Yang Bali will definitely be blamed for his negligence. He will probably be forced to resign as the head of Zabaoxuan, and this is not something Yang Wenli wants to see, both in public and private. At this moment, the last thin man who had not spoken a word coughed lightly, attracting everyone's attention. Judging from his aura, this man is also an 8th level giant in realm. Wenli, if we act with a force of thunder, is it possible to block the news? The thin man's tone was a little ferocious, and the meaning of his words was the same. Hearing this, Yang Wenli smiled bitterly. Second uncle, if Taozu Chamber of Commerce is a small force, silencing or annexing it is indeed a good solution. But the problem is that Taozu Chamber of Commerce is not a force that can be easily dealt with. Boli and I have made a simple estimate. Just the 3 batches of materials we handed over are enough for Taozu Chamber of Commerce to produce a strong giant in realm. Not to mention the foundation of the Fengling Yuan clan behind Taozu Chamber of Commerce, which may be a big force behind the Xianyu Mountains. Extreme ideas are not desirable. Yang Wenli's words are very practical. It is not a moral rebuttal, but an analysis from the perspective of difficulty. The Yang family or Zhejiang city can be passed down in the Damo realm for more than 1,000 years, so it is not that cruel. In fact, the families that can become core cities are similar. While highly centralized, they are still relatively fair and positive most of the time. But some things that are not visible to the light must have been done more or less. Although Yang Wenli's hands have been relatively clean since he became the head of the family, it does not mean that he is a great good man. They have always had the necessary awareness, and they will not hesitate when they need to be decisive. But just as Yang Wenli said, Taozu Chamber of Commerce is not a small force that can be manipulated at will. Although there is no direct contact, Yang Wenli and his brother privately regard Taozu Chamber of Commerce as an equal force. There is a high probability that there are no Yuanying realm practitioners, but there are probably not too few giant in realm practitioners. Such a force plus a distance of thousands of miles, how can it be destroyed just like that? If the Yang family chooses to take action, Taozu Chamber of Commerce will spread the news in a blink of an eye. Seeing this, Yang Wenbin could not help but look at the others and asked, Wenli, what do you mean? Yang Wenli sighed and said, if silencing is not an option, then there are only 2 ways left. Use spirit stones to shut the other party's mouth. Or, see if the other party is really sure to help the 5th uncle survive the thunder tribulation. I don't agree. Hearing Yang Wenli's plan, the tall old man who spoke first immediately expressed his dissatisfaction. Since the 6th generation of the head of the Yang family, we have been preparing for the 2nd Yuanying realm of the Yang family. Countless people have shed blood and even sacrificed for it. For example, Qian Zhanghua, my father and brother fell on the periphery of the Star Sea for it. It took more than 500 years of hard work to wait for Zhangqiu, a genius who is expected to reach the Yuanying realm. I would rather choose to use a large amount of spirit stones to shut them up than agree that Zhangqiu should take this unknown risk. At worst, we can just break up. As long as the Yuanying is not in the middle stage, the means left by the ancestors may not scare others. The old man snorted as he said, you must be joking. From ancient times to now, the Great Mo realm has never heard of a method that can survive the thunder tribulation. The tall old man's words were well-reasoned and full of strong personal emotions. Therefore, he quickly won the agreement of 2 of the elders, while the remaining bald old man and Yang Wenbin were a little hesitant. It must be said that the tall old man's words did make some sense. No matter how mysterious the Taozu Chamber of Commerce is, it is still a chamber of commerce after all. And businessmen are inherently profit-seeking. Therefore, in theory, Zhejiang City paid a part of the price to keep it secret, which is actually completely maneuverable. Even if there is a situation of breaking up, Zhejiang City has been established for 1,000 years, and it is not without some means of self-protection. For example, there are several formations in Zhejiang City, and under special circumstances, there is even a chance to kill the early stage of the nascent soul. In addition, the founder of the Yang family once left some connections, and even invited a nascent soul master from the East region to sit in. Although the cost will not be too low, once this trump card is played, it is not difficult to protect oneself until the result of the nascent soul thunder tribulation. That is why the other 2 elders agreed to the plan of the tall elder. As for believing in the Taozu Chamber of Commerce, what a fuss. Then Yang Wenbing looked around and made a decision in his heart. Just as he was about to speak, another voice suddenly came from the entrance of the secret room. "Wanley, please ask that storekeeper Ma to come over. I have something to ask him." As soon as this voice came out, the whole secret room suddenly became quiet. This voice sounded a little hoarse, but its origin was extraordinary. That's right. The person who spoke was the Yang family's most likely trump card to break through the nascent soul realm. Yang Zhangchu. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 358, Nascent Soul Tribulation Plan. In the secret room. As the voice fell, a figure appeared silently at the entrance. This is a middle-aged man with ordinary appearance, tall and slender. He looks about 30 years old, with an ancient sword on his back. If there's anything special about him, it is that he has silver hair that falls to the corners of his shoulders, and the whole person looks a little more mysterious. Of course, with the same silver hair, those handsome guys are like exiled immortals, and if this person appears in reality, at most he would be called silver hair. The moment they saw this person, whether it was Yang Bali who was kneeling on the ground, or the several Mo family elders sitting on the main seat, almost at the same time, they stood up and took the initiative to greet this person. Zhangchu, fifth brother, fifth uncle. Several different titles came out from several people's mouths, which also showed the age and seniority between the elders. The older Yang Wenbing had love in his eyes, the bald old man of the same generation as this person was concerned, and Yang Wanli and Yang Bali were respectful. In addition, everyone's eyes were filled with another emotion. This emotion was filled with strong expectations and pride, as if they were looking at a savior. The reason for this emotion was very simple. Because the person who came was the most promising member of the Yang family in hundreds of years to condense the nascent soul, Yang Zhangchu. If the Great Mo realm is the top secret and the future of the native land, then Yang Zhangchu can also use these two words to describe his importance. Uncle, Yang Zhangchu first bowed respectfully to Yang Wenbing, and then nodded to the others one by one. After the ceremony, Yang Wenbing and the others looked at each other. Gently pulling Yang Zhangchu aside, his tone was puzzled and a little sad. Zhangchu, you are confused. The nascent soul thunder tribulation is of great importance. How can you entrust such an important matter to others? Do you know that if you are not careful, it will be a disaster, and the hundreds of years of efforts of the entire Yang family will be in vain? I will die with my old bones, but how can you face the ancestors? Yang Wenbing's words were very heavy, but this was indeed his most sincere thought in his heart. Yang Zhangchu was his most beloved younger generation. Before the spiritual root qualification test was conducted, he took great care of Yang Zhangchu. The year when Yang Zhangchu was just detected to have a single spiritual root, Zikyong City encountered the largest round of beast tide since the city was founded. Yang Wenbing was seriously injured in that beast tide, and thus completely lost the possibility of advancing to the nascent soul. Therefore, he put all his efforts into Yang Zhangchu. It can be said that Yang Zhangchu is all his hopes in this life. He did not deny that the Teosu Chamber of Commerce had an extraordinary origin and special means. The Shanghai Mountains have been separated from the central region since ancient times. To put it in an extreme way, they can even be regarded as two different civilization systems. Therefore, he was not surprised that the forces behind the mountains had some mysterious means, such as the previous happy sticks and the antenna array. But things like helping to overcome the calamity seriously exceeded Yang Wenbing's cognition and acceptance. Moreover, although the Shanghai Mountains are mysterious, Zikyong City has been established for more than 1,400 years and has more or less come into contact with some of those aliens. Even more than 700 years ago, the elder brother of the then head of the Yang family married a foreign woman from the back of the Shanghai Mountains. This matter was also recorded in the biography of the characters in the family. Therefore, the Yang family did not know nothing about the Shanghai Mountains, at least there was a rough outline. Just like the local deep-sea research field. Although the current understanding of the deep sea in the local area is only a few %, it still knows how many meters the deepest seabed is, the direction of the ocean currents in each season, and the deepest SpongeBob SquarePants. Therefore, in Yang Wenbing's view, the so-called Mazhanga may not have expected the Yang family to believe them at all. The original purpose of Teo's Hu Chamber of Commerce was to get a huge hush money. Looking at Yang Wenbing, who was trying hard to persuade him, Yang Zhangchu's eyes flashed with a complicated feeling, and he said, "Uncle, what you said may be right, and even the younger generation does not believe what the shopkeeper Ma said." Yang Wenbing heard this and became more puzzled, interrupting and asking, "In this case, why did you go to them again?" Yang Zhangchu did not answer directly, but looked around at everyone, and then sighed, "Uncle, because I have a premonition. If I don't go through the thunder tribulation again, I may not be able to condense the nascent soul in this life." As soon as these words came out, the whole secret room suddenly fell into dead silence. The first to speak was Yang Bali, the youngest of the generation. Surprised, he didn't care whether it was appropriate to interrupt or not. "Fifth uncle, did you have an accident?" Yang Zhangchu shook his head gently and took the sword from behind. Clang! A cold and stern voice resounded through the secret room. Yang Zhangchu gently stroked the sword, as if looking at a relative. "You all should know that I am a sword cultivator. And a sword cultivator must hold the Dao in his heart and regard the sword as his god. The faith is like the sword light, moving forward without dodging or evading, without fear or dread. Perhaps some people of the lesser Dao will use soft swords, but for those who follow the greater Dao, the sword body must not be bent at all. Either return with a great victory, or die in pieces and sacrifice their bodies to the Dao." Then he looked at Yang Wenbing, smiled bitterly, and said, "Uncle, what am I doing now? I dare not face the thunder tribulation directly, and I hide under the ancestral temple every day. I watch the entire Yang family gather resources for me, but I can't do anything. It was okay in the first few years, and I just treated it as a closed-door practice. But recently, I feel that my state of mind is beginning to have problems. If I delay any longer, my Dao heart will probably collapse." Hearing this, Yang Wenbing's pupils suddenly shrank. He opened his mouth, but couldn't say anything. Dao heart. Daoxin, or faith in common parlance, is a higher level than faith, and is considered an advanced concept. Even ordinary people know how important faith is to a person. People with firm faith can stand up even at the lowest point in life and finally achieve great things. But if faith collapses, the whole person will be completely ruined. It is very likely that some trivial things will lead to confusion of mind and some extreme tragedies. There are as many poor people who walk onto the balcony and jump off the balcony in despair, whether in the local or the great Mo world. For practitioners, Daoxin is more important. Because every breakthrough in a realm requires willpower to endure an impact, and finally achieve a new realm. Once a practitioner's Daoxin collapses, the realm will fall at the least, and it will take a great price or a great opportunity to make up for it. In serious cases, he will go into the devil and die. As a practitioner of the 8th level of the Jinden realm, Yang Wenbing analyzed it a little and knew that what Yang Zhangchu said was true. He even had a vague feeling. Under the pressure of the whole clan, Yang Zhangchu's Dao heart has begun to crack. Therefore, he has to overcome the thunder tribulation now, whether he wants to or not. Opposite him, Yang Zhangchu looked at the elder of the clan who personally guided him into the sect, and a picture from a long time ago flashed in his eyes. The beast tide that year was led by an unprecedented 4th-order monster. In the end, 3 high-level cultivators in the Jinden realm fell in Zhejiang City, and the victory ended tragically. At that time, he saw Yang Wenbing lying in front of his wife's mourning hall and crying. At that moment, he was thinking that if he could become a Yuanying cultivator, he must win everything. Now that the thunder tribulation is in front of him, he must consider whether this will be his only chance in this life. He believes that Zhejiang City can have the dominant position in the past, and the efforts of the ancestors are indispensable. It is our duty to rebuild the glory of Zhejiang City. By the way, does anyone know if there is any other way to upgrade the group of 1,000 people? The free membership is so expensive, and the group of 500 people will be full soon. Chapter 359, Nascent Soul Tribulation Plan. The meaning of Yang Zhangchu's words is very clear. That is, the time has come when he must pass the tribulation. If he delays any longer, he may die without passing the tribulation. Of course, it's not that he must pass the tribulation today or tomorrow, but it refers to the recent period of time. But even if it can be delayed, it can only be delayed for 1 or 2 years at most. In this time, he may find 1 or 2 precious tribulation items, but Yang Zhangchu needs more than just these things. If it is really that simple to gather all the items with a little effort, the Yang family would not have spent hundreds of years setting up this game. Therefore, things have come to this point. No matter what Yang Zhangchu's final choices, the meeting with Manning is inevitable. As for whether Yang Zhangchu will choose to agree to the plan of Teozu Chamber of Commerce at that time, it depends on Manning's performance. Since Teozu Chamber of Commerce has already known about Yang Zhangchu's existence, the meeting place between the two parties has not been chosen elsewhere. Instead, it is still set in this secret room. However, there were only two elders accompanying the meeting, namely the two most powerful names in the Yang family. After all, the rabbits did not mention the existence of the other three dark elders, so there was no need to take the initiative to reveal all the cards. A quarter of an hour later, Yang Wanli brought Manning to the entrance of the secret room. At this time, Manning's expression was quite solemn, and there was even a little determination in his eyes. When he went to UNESCO to report on Chinese language and literature, he was not as nervous as today. To be honest, he was afraid of death, and he didn't want to die. But most of the reasons for his nervousness at this time were not because of the fear of death. He was more worried that he would make mistakes and cause the entire local plan to fail. Just like Jinkei at the beginning, success or failure is related to the fate of the country. But unlike Jinkei, Yang Zhangchu is not the first emperor, and Manning does not have Qin Wuan by his side. Instead, he has a more reliable helper. The first time Manning entered the secret room, a small device on his waist quietly vibrated. This is the feedback of a signal in the secret room, which means that the command center is always paying attention to the situation in the secret room. Maybe it is impossible to communicate, but it is inexplicably certain in one's heart. Just like the sign that Akimichi Chaji saw after defeating the sound ninja in Naruto. Silent but reassuring, reminding you that you have not been abandoned. After entering the secret room, Yang Bali first introduced the identities of the two elders to Manning. Shopkeeper Ma, this is my fourth uncle Yankee, and the other is the living fossil of the tribe, Elder Yang Wenbing. Manning very politely performed a junior salute to the two. Yankee's age is another matter. Yang Wenbing's real age is at least over 200 years old, which is longer than the history of a certain diarrhea eagle. Therefore, it is appropriate to perform junior etiquette to them, which is out of human respect. Yang Wenbing nodded slightly when he saw this, and the tall Yankee snorted disdainfully. Yankee's father and brother both fell in the dangerous Star Sea because of a strange object called Thousand Burial Flower. And the Thousand Burial Flower is an extremely important part of a certain tribulation formation. Therefore, Yankee had a natural aversion to Manning, or distrust. He didn't believe that Teozu Chamber of Commerce would have such means that violated the laws of nature. Then Yang Bali changed his angle and was about to introduce Yang Zhangchu's identity. He saw Yang Zhangchu took the initiative to bow to Manning. Shopkeeper Ma, I am Yang Zhangchu, and I am also one of the elders of the Yang family. You can call me Yang Elder. Manning quickly returned the greeting. Meetings, Yang Elder. Then Yang Zhangchu motioned for everyone to take a seat. Although the secret room was not big, it had all the necessary facilities. Then he said, Shopkeeper Ma, could you please give us a detailed introduction to the Thunder Tribulation plan you mentioned? Manning nodded, organized his words, and said, Elder Yang. Before talking about the plan, please allow me to keep you in suspense and demonstrate a principle with an object. Of course. This object is just to explain a concept and will not be used in the tribulation. Yang Zhangchu was slightly stunned when he heard this, and then he came to his senses. Shopkeeper Ma, if you need it, just demonstrate it. Is it here or somewhere else? Manning looked up at the ceiling 5 or 6 meters above the ground and said, just in the secret room. Then he took out a space bag and handed it to Yang Bali. Shopkeeper Yang, please help me take out the things in the bag. I am just a mortal and I can't do anything about this thing. Yang Bali took the space bag and cast his eyes on Yang Zhangchu. Yang Zhangchu nodded gently. After receiving Yang Zhangchu's instruction, he no longer hesitated and immediately input spiritual power into the space bag. After a while, a strange thing appeared in front of everyone. This is a metal device that is somewhat similar to a cage, about 2 meters high and more than 1 meter wide. It is sealed from top to bottom, and there are some fine grids around it. Manning pointed at the metal cage and introduced, this thing is called a Faraday cage, invented by a sage named Faraday. This person's Taoist name is Magnetic Pole Immortal, and he is a famous thunder cultivator in ancient times. Yang Zhangchu, who was opposite, heard this and immediately became solemn. At the same time, he also had a little expectation. Maybe the creation of the thunder cultivator in ancient times can really give him some surprises? So he asked hurriedly, may I ask Shopkeeper Ma, How does this thing work and how should it be used? Ma Ning smiled at him and said, please allow me to explain the principle of the Faraday cage. I will explain it later. As for its effect, I will demonstrate it and you will understand. Yang Zhangchu gestured to him, please. Ma Ning bowed again, and then carefully checked the Faraday cage. After ensuring that it was grounded stably, he opened the iron door and walked in. Then he locked the cage from the inside and continued to fiddle with it for half a minute. After the command center vibrated again from his waist, indicating that the process was correct, he raised his head and said to Yang Bali calmly, Shopkeeper Yang, please use thunder magic or thunder talismans to attack the cage. By the way, under the premise of not destroying the cage, try to cover the entire cage with lightning. Yang Bali was stunned when he heard this, and then frowned. Shopkeeper Yang, are you going to die? Although the Great Mo realm does not have scientific and technological theories, some common sense is still not lacking. For example, metals can conduct electricity, boiling water vapor can burn the skin, and readers are more handsome than beautiful women. When taking the object earlier, Yang Bali used his spiritual sense to scan this strange object called Faraday cage. He was very sure that this was just an ordinary metal cage without any protective talismans or formations. Even if he controlled the thunder method to not destroy the cage, Ma Ning would definitely die under the conductive properties of metal. As for the possibility that Ma Ning secretly used talismans to save his life, it was a joke. Do you really think that the several Jindan and even fake infant practitioners present are just eating dry food? Not to mention that if it was to verify the effect of a certain defensive talisman, Ma Ning would not have to make such a cage. With the completion of Zibeoksun and Teoshu Chamber of Commerce's multiple trades, Yang Bali and Ma Ning have more or less developed some personal relationships. At least apart from the commercial elements, Yang Bali is also willing to deal with people like Ma Ning in private, and will not be prejudiced because of the difference in cultivation. Even if Ma Ning exposed Yang Zhangchu's existence, it would only make Yang Bali surprised rather than angry. Under this premise, you let Yang Bali watch Ma Ning die in vain. He was still somewhat hesitant in his heart. Looking at Yang Bali, who was hesitant, Ma Ning still insisted on his attitude. Shopkeeper Yang, just do it boldly, I still want to live to the end. Yang Bali sighed. Knowing that it was meaningless to persuade him, he took out a thunder magic talisman from his sleeve. Then he activated the talisman and controlled it to fly towards the Faraday cage. Zzz, the lightning quickly filled the cage. The dazzling white light wrapped the entire cage tightly, like the center of the wave between Harry Potter and Voldemort. However, under this exciting lightning, Ma Ning was safe and sound. Note, the Faraday cage is just an introduction and has nothing to do with the actual plan. Don't worry, my setting is not that low. If a Faraday cage can block lightning, it would be too boring. Let me talk about the update plan for the next few days. This month, there are double monthly tickets, so I plan to update from the 26th to the 30th, 3 updates a day, 9,000 words, which is equivalent to 4.5 updates for other books. There seems to be an official update event at the beginning of next month. This is going to tire a clumsy person like me to death. Chapter 360, Nascent Soul Tribulation Plan. At this moment, in the secret room, everyone's breathing slowed down by 2 beats as they watched Ma Ning, who was safe and sound in the cage. As mentioned before, among the 5 Yang family members in the secret room, except for Yang Bali, the lowest realm was Yang Wanli, who was at the first level of the Jindan realm. Therefore, under the dispersion of divine thoughts, Ma Ning's state at this time was undoubtedly revealed. Yang Wanli dared to use his 3rd level magic underwear to guarantee that there was absolutely no sign of any talisman or magic weapon activated on Ma Ning at this moment. In other words, this cage completely isolated the lightning from the outside. Seeing this scene, even Yang, who had a bad impression of Yang Bali before, couldn't help but tremble. After a few more breaths, the electric talisman was consumed. Bang bang bang, Ma Ning opened the cage door and walked out safely. Clap, clap, clap. Yang Zhangchu on the side clapped his hands gently and praised, a mortal body can remain unscathed under the bombardment of the 2nd level lightning talisman. The magnetic pole immortal is indeed extraordinary. I have lived for nearly 200 years, and this is the first time I have seen such a magical thing. Yang Zhangchu first praised him very much, and then changed the subject. But shopkeeper Ma, you know that the nascent soul thunder tribulation is not comparable to ordinary lightning. The thunder punishment contains a large amount of spiritual energy and alien objects, and its power is far beyond the ability of ordinary magic tools to block. Forgive me for being frank. If Bali had not intentionally controlled the power of the talisman, even if the Faraday cage could block the lightning, it would not last long and would be completely destroyed. Not to mention that the thunder tribulation is not as simple as blocking it. Yang Zhengchu paused and continued, overcoming the tribulation is a hardship, but it is also a gift from heaven. There are 12 rounds of Yuanying thunder tribulation, and each round has 9981 thunder punishments. In each round of thunder tribulation, the cultivator must bear at least 9 of the thunder punishments and integrate the power contained in the thunder tribulation into the body. Only then will the body of the Jinden realm transform into the Yuanying realm. Therefore, most of the tribulation surviving people from ancient times to the present use formations to eliminate most of the thunder punishments, and then use their bodies to bear the power of the remaining thunder punishments. Either they completely survive the 12 rounds of heavenly tribulation, or the formation is damaged first, the thunder tribulation falls like the sky, and finally they die. Yang Zhengchu's tone was a little melancholy. It is rumored that in ancient times, there were only 4 rounds of Yuanying thunder tribulation. Each round had only 7749 thunders, and the power was much less than it is now. Therefore, the thunder tribulation in ancient times was not difficult, and the success rate was as high as 5 levels. At the same time, this probability is the same as the average net worth of me and Jack Ma, which is 100 billion. For those who have a background, the success rate is actually higher. And now the probability of success in the Yuanying tribulation in the Great Ma realm is really terribly low. Although some arrays can temporarily block some of the thunder punishment, the power of the remaining thunder that one has to bear will not be weakened at all. The strange item left by the ancestor of the Yang family can ensure that the person who survives the first 4 rounds of thunder tribulation, and the rest depends on himself. And the resources prepared by the Yang family at this time are far from enough for Yang Zhengchu to survive the last round. Maybe this is fate. Just as Yang Zhengchu was lamenting the impermanence of the past and the present, Moning suddenly laughed. The process of the Yuanying thunder tribulation is not a mystery in the Damo world, so the rabbits have obtained the detailed process of the thunder tribulation a long time ago. This is the same as the college entrance examination. What day and time to take the exam, what subject, where the exam is, these information are directly announced to the public. This kind of information itself is not of much value and is not confidential. The real secret is the final question of the college entrance examination mathematics and the composition question of Chinese, not the specific process of the exam, and the rabbits dared to find Yang Bali on the premise of mastering the process, and naturally they could not be confident with just a Faraday cage. Moning said to Yang Zhengchu, Elder Yang, do you remember what I said before? This Faraday cage is just to explain a certain concept, and it will not be used in the tribulation. Yang Zhengchu was stunned when he heard it. He blinked and recalled that Moning did say such a thing. Moning adjusted his glasses and pointed at the Faraday cage and said, the magnetic pole immortal who invented the Faraday cage once talked about the principle of this thing with his disciples. The immortal called it electrostatic balance and called it an equipotential body. The cultivation of the magnetic pole immortal had reached above the level of transformation, reaching the sky and the earth, and was almost invincible in the world. Through his research on Yuanying disciples, he found that whether it was a heavenly tribulation or ordinary lightning, they all carried a special tiny substance. This tiny substance is called electrons, which are difficult to identify even by the naked eyes of Yuanying practitioners. When they gather together and move in a certain direction, the heavenly tribulation will produce something called electric current. And for electric current to move, there must be a potential difference. At this point, Moning paused. After finding that Yang Zhengchu did not ask, he continued, what does potential difference mean? Just like a stone, we put it 10 meters above the ground, it will naturally fall to the ground. When it is placed on the ground and there is no other external force, it will remain motionless. The height between the stone and the ground is the potential energy difference. When the height is 10 meters, the potential energy is 10, and when the height is 0, it is 0. If the stone is regarded as an electron, it becomes a potential difference. The Faraday cage is an equipotential body with a potential difference of 0. So lightning will only be conducted outside it, and will not enter it. Yang Zhengchu listened quietly and nodded as if he understood. Although he is a native of the Great Ma realm and has not established a standard scientific cognition system, but at his level, he still has some involvement in the microscopic field. For example, the spiritual energy of daily practice. Yang Zhengchu can vaguely feel that it is something smaller than sand and invisible to the naked eye, not a simple gas. In addition, the brain area of the 9th level practitioners of the Jinden realm is extremely developed, and it can even be said to be a humanoid self-propelled computer. Therefore, when Monying mentioned the concept of electric current, although he could not accept the existence of electrons instantly, he still had some direction in his mind. Then Monying continued to introduce, Elder Yang, let's use stones as an analogy. Suppose the heavenly tribulation is a stone falling from a height of 10,000 meters, and the Faraday cage is a stone placed flat on the ground. The former is too heavy to hide a person, and the latter cannot hide a person, each is an extreme. So can we think of a way to neutralize it? Shorten it to a point where it can hide a person but will not hurt a person. Yang Zhengchu was suddenly stunned. Gulu, this cultivator of the 9th level of the Jinden realm, showed an expression of losing his composure for the first time. He swallowed hard and said uncertainly, Shopkeeper Ma, do you mean that the electric potential difference can be reduced? That is, while reducing the number of thunder penalties, the power of the thunder that descended on the body can also be weakened. Monying nodded gently, looking like a teachable child. Yes, this is our entry point. Yang Zhengchu's expression suddenly became serious. He touched his chin and thought carefully, then suddenly frowned. Shopkeeper Ma, this is easy to say, but how easy is it to do? According to what you said, although the potential difference is similar to the height difference, the two are completely different concepts. Even if you let me drill thousands of meters underground, the potential difference of the thunder that falls on me will not decrease at all. Unless you have the ability to make it thinner and longer at the moment of the thunder punishment. Let's not talk about other things first. If you want to control the thunder punishment, at least you must determine its landing point in advance before a thunder falls. But the speed at which the thunder punishment falls, is there really anyone in the world who can judge the direction of the thunder punishment in the blink of an eye? Hearing this, Monying suddenly smiled honestly. Elder Yang, have you heard of the light of Tehu Lake? Chapter 361, Nascent Soul Tribulation Plan. When it comes to lightning, we have to mention a misunderstanding here, that is, the explosion speed of lightning is not the speed of light, but its propagation speed is the speed of light. A complete lightning consists of two parts, namely the leader and the return stroke. The former is the air ionizing to establish a channel, and the latter is the current flowing from the ground to the cloud. In terms of speed, the former is slow and the latter is fast. The average speed of the leader process is 1.5 times 10 to the power of 5 meters per second, which is about 1/2000 of the speed of light. The speed of the return stroke process is much greater than the leader speed, which is about 1/10 of the speed of light. Therefore, in theory, as long as the computing power of the equipment is sufficient, it is possible to locate the landing point of lightning manually. And it is a coincidence that the rabbits can really do this at present. The technical support is provided by our current T1 supercomputer, Shenhua E Tehu Light. Of course, at present, it is not Tehu Light that is responsible for the relevant processes locally, but Cheyenne 2. Cheyenne's annual computing load rate is around 60-70, of which about 4% is used for weather model calculations. In the typhoon-prone summer, it can sometimes increase to 7% or even 7.5%. After the heavy rain in Hangzhou some time ago, Cheyenne's computing power was unprecedentedly used for meteorological simulations. The specific computing power ratio is unclear, but it is rumored to be between 8.5% and 9.5%. In short, Cheyenne finally estimated the weather changes within 72 hours with an accuracy of 86%. Don't think that 86% is a low ratio. The amount of calculation required for this simulation is simply unimaginable. With the current technical reserves, even if Cheyenne puts all its computing power into weather simulation, it can only artificially interfere with the formation of small acid rain of about 1 square kilometer through non-chemical means, and the rainfall is extremely low. This is why a certain base station up was refuted by professionals because of the claim of meteorological weapons. This is actually quite interesting. In the mouths of some people, the technological level of ego basically jumps back and forth between primitive man and three-body. Either it is extremely primitive and even inferior to Indians, or it is hanging on the wall as if it has signed an agreement with aliens, or it has dug out the legacy of the Indian multiverse empire from the earth pit. To be rational, it is not advisable to over-belittle or overpraise. The so-called long-term vision does not require you to see Andromeda in one breath. However, weather simulation is difficult. It is relatively simple to capture lightning in motion, and we have even completed artificial lightning explosion experiments. Locating the landing point of lightning is different from intercepting missiles. It can be calculated through the magnetic induction model. Here we have to mention a famous set of equations. It is called Maxwell's equations. In 2004, the British scientific journal Physical World held an event. Let readers choose the greatest formula in the history of science. Guess where Maxwell's equations ranked last? The final result is Maxwell's equations topped the list, surpassing the mass-energy equation, Euler's formula, Newton's second law, the Pythagorean theorem, Schrödinger's equation and other giants. This shows its influence. The physical significance of Maxwell's equations is that they describe electromagnetic effects from the perspective of flux and spinor, that is, from the perspective of field. It reveals the principles of motors and generators and predicts the generation of electromagnetic waves. Considering that some students who are not familiar with this passage cannot understand it, let's be more straightforward. It can be said that without Maxwell's equations, you will never see a movie in your life, because mobile phones may not appear at this time, let alone mobile phones. According to the extension of Gauss's theorem in the second term of Maxwell's equations, the magnetic field, and then substituted into the quantum field, you can get a very interesting result. That is, the fractal structure of lightning shows scale invariant, which is also a feature of continuous phase transition, which can be explained by resonance percolation. This is also the currently recognized principle of lightning formation. Of course, this is still a long way from the consensus. According to the voting results in 2018, the supporters are about 75%. Once the structural principle is determined, the rest is very, very simple. As we all know, the molecules in the atmosphere can be regarded as potential barriers encountered by the charged particles that make up the current, and the area between two adjacent potential barriers can be regarded as a potential well. If the particle energy is near one of the bound state energy levels, the tunneling probability will be close to 1, or resonant tunneling occurs. This double barrier structure that resonates with the particles can be formed randomly in the atmosphere, and the discharge exacerbates the thermal fluctuations, and gradually form an ordered structure on a larger scale. That is, such a double barrier structure appears periodically in space, and eventually a percolation phase transition occurs, and a fairly long-range fractal conductive channel is formed. The above is the core technical basis of the rabbit's deal this time. Otherwise, you can't capture the dynamic lightning landing point. You either stand there and get struck by lightning, or just fix a certain area to attract lightning like other robbers. The site returns to the secret room. At this moment, Manning was introducing to Yang Zhengqiu, the divine power Tehu Light supercomputing formation is a treasure of the Fengling Yuan clan. The elders of the Yang clan can regard it as a certain calculation and deduction formation. As long as this formation is put into operation, the landing point of the sky thunder can be predicted in advance. Once we can capture the landing point of lightning in real time, we can start the next plan. Yang Zhengqiu almost caught up with Manning's thoughts at this time. He said thoughtfully, I seem to understand a little bit of what shopkeeper Ma meant. That is, first calculate the landing point of each round of 81 sky thunders through the calculation formation, and then isolate 72 of the sky thunders through some means, and put the remaining 9 in it. Manning looked at him in surprise. He didn't expect that the big man understood it much better than he and the command center expected. Yes, that's right. After getting Manning's affirmation, Yang Zhengqiu asked again, Shopkeeper Ma, let's not talk about how long the magic weapon that blocks the thunder disaster can last. How do you plan to weaken the 9 heavenly thunders that have been put in it? This time, Manning did not answer him directly, but took out a funnel and 2 plastic bags of sands from his body. Manning first poured a bag of sand into his hand, and then loosened his left hand. Swish, the sand instantly fell to the ground and scattered into a ball. Then he picked up the funnel and poured another bag of sand into it. Soon, the upper half of the hourglass was filled with sand, and a fine line of sand flowed out from the bottom of the funnel. Fine and fast. But the volume was not large. Seeing this situation, a flash of enlightenment flashed in Yang Zhengqiu's eyes, and he suddenly looked at Manning. Shopkeeper Ma, are you talking about setting up a channel for the thunder tribulation so that it can fall down little by little in a controllable manner? Manning nodded gently and said, yes, I told you before. The energy of the thunder tribulation, or part of the main energy, comes from its electrical potential energy. Therefore, as long as we use some means to extend its potential energy difference from instantaneous. During the whole process, the total potential energy difference of the thunder punishment will not decrease, but will be temporarily suspended for a long time. Then, the damage of lightning to the body can be reduced without affecting the body-building substances. Just like the sand just now. One is to the ground instantly, and the other is to slide down slowly. There will be no difference in the total amount between the two. The only difference is the time consumed. And time happens to be the least important factor in the thunder tribulation. Patriarch Yang, you should also know. It is rumored that in ancient times, there were even practitioners who spent several days before and after crossing before they succeeded in breaking through the realm. I'd like to recommend a book, Asking the Sword, a new book by Hedong Xiaohou and Deng Shen. There's no need to introduce the king of casually talking, Leon, right? Chapter 362 Condensation Microbial Energy Storage Technology. Ma Ning's tone was very calm. But every word he said was like a heavy hammer from teacher Wang Hong, hitting Yang Zhengchu's heart hard. It has been mentioned before. Thunder tribulation is mainly divided into two parts. One is the electric potential energy that can generate heat and kinetic energy. The other is a certain body-building substance that is intertwined with a large amount of spiritual energy. Since there is no actual sample of this body-building substance, it may be temporarily replaced by X substance. Therefore, the rabbit's plan processes as follows. First, through the high computing power of the supercomputer, the location of the lightning that falls during the thunder tribulation is determined in real time. Then, the more than 80 landing points are screened and the most suitable 9 thunder tribulations are selected. Under the full computing power of the Xi'an supercomputer, this process takes a very short time. It will be far better than the explosion speed of lightning. After selecting 9 thunder tribulations, then, through a very strong and movable defense shell, the remaining more than 70 thunder tribulations are blocked. The remaining 9 thunder tribulations enter the defense system and are buffered and reduced under the guidance of a channel that can change the potential difference. After optimization, the thunder tribulation will be like sand flowing out of a funnel, gently falling on Yang Zhengchu's body. It is fine and lasts for a very long time, but the power is very small. That is to say, the total amount of electric potential energy is guaranteed to remain unchanged by extending the time consumption. As for the time consumption, it is even simpler. Ma Ning mentioned many examples. According to the information collected by the rabbits, the thunder tribulation seems to be a bit like an AI program. Another round will never fall before the end of one round. This is why some people's tribulation time is very fast, while others take days and nights. Therefore, from a theoretical point of view, the rabbit's idea is completely feasible. As for the choice of the defense shell and the transmission channel, is there any need to ask? The former must be a barrier belt composed of helium-ferrous crystals. The helium-ferrous crystal barrier belt is one of the strongest single trump cards of the rabbits at present, and its barrier effect has been confirmed in the secret room and laboratory of the Mo family. This is a complete state that is, when the ability is sufficient, the crystal field of the God transformation realm can be completely banned. Even if the rabbits are currently in an incomplete form that uses monster crystals as energy supply, they can completely restrain the practitioners of the nascent soul realm. No matter how terrifying the thunder tribulation is, it is only the threshold for the promotion from the Jinden realm to the Yuanying realm. Therefore, it doesn't matter if the thunder tribulation is 81 or 810 times. Unless it is unethical and inexplicably pops up something like a cyanide ion beam. Otherwise, from the perspective of energy alone, the mere infant breaking thunder tribulation has no possibility of breaking the crystal field. As for the option of transmitting lightning and acting as the tube at the mouth of the funnel, it is naturally the ion channel instrument used once in Qingchang Mountain. If supercomputing is the basic core and support of all ideas, then in the entire plan, the object that acts as the tube at the mouth is the most critical link in actual combat. Considering that some of the students who are not familiar with it are more confused, here is an explanation of why supercomputing is used to locate lightning. Generally speaking, except for ball lightning, the diameter of ordinary lightning is about 10 to 20 centimeters. Those lightning with a diameter of 5 meters are nonsense, used by marketing accounts for chicken soup. However, although the diameter of lightning is not large, but under the effect of magnetic induction interaction, the distance between each other will be at least more than 10 meters. According to what was said before, each round of heavenly tribulation has a full 9981 lightning bolts. Therefore, The area involved in the entire tribulation process is at least nearly 1,000 square meters, and the actual situation will be much larger than this number. At the same time, due to the transition effect between charges, each lightning bolt is destined to not have the same magnitude. There are always a few strong points and a few weak points. If you don't use supercomputing to capture, the entire area will be covered with tribulation means. Then the rabbits will need to consider a large area of thousands of square meters, and the subsequent computing power difficulty will be more than 1,000 times. Therefore, only by locating the landing point and magnitude of each lightning in advance can the subsequent defense and guidance work proceed normally. As for the reason for choosing an ion channel instrument instead of a traditional cable, one is because beryllium ions are cations. It can correct the potential difference of thunder punishment through the conditions of the electron orbit. It's like there is a staircase between the first floor and the second floor. The original staircase has 5 steps, which is very laborious to walk, and each step across the server is very large. The function of the ion channel instrument is to expand the staircase to 20 steps, so that even a baby can walk slowly step by step. Although traditional cables can also do this, the length they need is too long. And even the best quality cables and composite cables can hardly withstand the energy of lightning punishment. Beryllium ions are different. Their stability is amazingly high. The excitation energy of beryllium ions can be calculated using FCPC and MCDF, DOI, CNKI, SUN, HBNS, 0.2016 to 4011. I won't waste time calculating here. Anyway, it is easy to withstand lightning punishment. The ion channel instrument played an extremely important role in the development of the Qingchang Mountain Xiangguang. Now it is a relatively mature technical reserve and can be used in lightning punishment. In addition, the rabbits have mastered another new technology not long ago, space-like energy storage. I wonder if any of you remember it. Back in the secret realm of Qingchang Mountain, the rabbits once observed the boundary of space and recorded a special spectrum. Coincidentally, the machine also detected a large number of positrons at the edge of space at that time, and academician Pan associated it with the Bremsstrahlung radiation that generates lightning. Do you feel that any of the above places is very similar to the current situation? That's right. It's also lightning. Although the Bremsstrahlung radiation at the edge of space does not generate lightning visible to the naked eye, the principle is actually exactly the same as lightning. Even the energy level of gamma rays is higher, that is cosmic rays. In Bremsstrahlung, the reduced kinetic energy of high-speed electrons will be emitted in the form of gamma rays. Gamma rays hide a certain atom in the atmosphere, knocking out a fast neutron, and that atom will become a certain isotope. The atom hit by gamma rays in the atmosphere is nitrogen. And nitrogen is the core element for generating condensed Y particles. Seeing this, I believe that smart kids have already understood. That's right. The technology that the rabbits have recently broken through is to use microorganisms that produce Y particles as temporary energy storage. Speaking of which, it was the girl Wang Qiang who discovered this technology. In fact, it was a long time ago, before this book was even on the shelves. Wang Qiang and Liu Xiangqian encountered a puzzle during the experiment. Condensation microorganisms can directly convert free nitrogen in the air into nitrogen-containing compounds, but strangely, those nitrogen-containing compounds are burned immediately after they are generated. See Chapter 47. This problem once troubled the R&D team for a long time, until recently there was new progress. Note, Tiga's childhood has been removed from the entire network. I recommend the book, Li Xiang's new book. I guarded impaled down for 100 years as a pirate. This big guy actually followed my book and was flattered. Oh no, I was surprised. I don't like the pirates who burn, kill and loot. Nor do I like those celestial dragons who live and waste air, so I turn a blind eye to some things that should be managed, and I have to manage some things that should not be managed. This is my justice. Facing the younger generation who had just been promoted to Admiral, Figo, the first director of Impale Down, said so. Kizaru, you've learned nothing. When he returned to the office, he wrote ambiguous justice and hung it on the wall. Chapter 363 Intention achieved. Students who have studied biology should all know that nitrogen is a very stable substance. Because the bonding atoms form multiple bonds, there must be and can only be one Greek letter sigma bond, but there can be one or two Greek letter pi bonds. Generally, Greek letter sigma bonds are formed in a head-to-head form. The electron cloud overlap is large and relatively stable. However, Greek letter pi bonds are formed in a shoulder-to-shoulder form. The electron cloud overlap is small and unstable. For example, when alkenes react with Br2, the Greek letter pi bond in the carbon-carbon double bond C=C is broken, while the Greek letter sigma bond is not broken. In this way, only bromine atoms can be added without breaking the carbon chain. When alkynes are added with Br2, since the bond length of Cc in alkynes is shorter than that of C=C, the Greek letter pi bond in Cc is stronger than the Greek letter pi bond in C=C, and it is more difficult to break during addition. Therefore, the reaction rate is significantly slower than that of alkenes. The N bond length is shorter, resulting in a greater degree of overlap of the Greek letter pi bond than the Greek letter sigma bond, and the Greek letter pi bond is stronger than the Greek letter sigma bond. Therefore, the Greek letter pi bond in N is difficult to be added, which leads to the extremely stable chemical properties of N2. In order to make N2 react, the triple bond must be broken at high temperature or in the presence of a catalyst to react. The same reason. The chemical properties of some nitrogen-containing compounds are also very stable. For example, acrylonitrile and some nitrogen oxides. According to the research of the rabbits, this type of relatively stable compound often appears at the end of the Y particle generation reaction, but it is always inexplicably burned. Compounds such as acrylonitrile that are not resistant to high temperatures are easy to say, as they decompose when exposed to high temperatures. However, some nitrogen oxide molecules are very heat resistant, especially when Y particles are generated. In theory, they should be able to maintain a stable state for a long time. Therefore, this situation has become a mystery and lasted for half a year. It was not until recently that Wang Qiang's team discovered its secret, that is, the condensed microorganisms that generate Y particles have a certain energy storage effect. The number of condensed microorganisms in a cluster of ground vein flames is not large, but it can store about 70 million joules of energy in a very short contact time and contact surface. This energy is enough to instantly burn those small nitrogen oxide molecules. Of course, 70 million joules is nothing in real life. Students who are slightly better at physics should remember that 1 kilowatt-hour is equal to 3,600,000 joules, so 70 million joules of energy storage can generate about 19 degrees of electricity. But don't forget, how big is a cluster of Earth vein flames? What is the volume of the condensed microorganisms in it? There is a very simple truth. That is, if the volume of the condensed microorganisms is too large, let alone the rabbits. It has long been discovered by the practitioners of the Great Mo realm. Children with good memory should still remember that when the trade group first arrived in Zhejiang City, they used the short-term version of the Earth vein flame to trick several unscrupulous merchants. So from a very early time, the rabbits have mastered the technology of artificially breeding condensed microorganisms. At that time, the upper limit of the lifespan of condensed microorganisms in Zhejiang market was 168 hours. And now the rabbits have successfully broken through to 360 hours, that is, 15 days. To be honest, the lifespan of 15 days does not actually have much local application value, so the relevant technology is still under further accelerated research. It is a forward-looking study. But under certain circumstances, the significance of condensed microorganisms is extraordinary. This includes the nascent soul tribulation that Yang Zhengchu is about to face. According to the plan of the rabbits, the ion channel instrument acts as a conduit for the leak, optimizing and controlling the leakage rate of the sand by coordinating the potential difference. Since the flow rate of the sand is to be controlled, a bucket is necessary to store the excess sand. The helium-ferrous crystal formation can only provide strong defense or blockade, and has no energy storage function. Therefore, this task naturally falls on the condensed microorganisms. The energy of ordinary lightning on Earth is not as high as everyone imagines, only about 1 to 1 billion joules. As for the legendary ball lightning, it is hard to say. There are only a few eyewitnesses of this thing, and even energy analysis through spectroscopy is very difficult. Some people believe that it is related to nuclear fusion magnetic confinement, and there are also many macroelectronics. The reason why lightning is so powerful is mainly because its contact time is very short. The instantaneous current and voltage can be as high as unimaginable levels, so it has the alias of Xianwei. That is, the voltage is high and the work done is small. This is also the reason why lightning is difficult to store. There are too few materials that can withstand instantaneous high pressure. And condensed microorganisms just meet this condition. Perhaps the power of the Great Mo Realm Thunder Tribulation is much stronger than the lightning on Earth, and orders of magnitude higher. But no matter what, it is after all a checkpoint for the initial entry into the nascent soul realm, and there is a theoretical upper limit. It is impossible for the power of a thunder tribulation to reach the middle or even late stage of the nascent soul, right? Then wouldn't the cultivators who have survived the tribulation be able to directly withstand the attacks of the middle and late stages of the nascent soul? Obviously, this does not make sense. Therefore, based on this theory, the command center conducted detailed calculations. It was finally determined that if there were enough condensed microorganisms, they could completely carry the entire energy of the nascent soul thunder tribulation. At this point, the rabbit's plan is very clear. The first is to form a partition belt with helium-ferrous microcrystals. Then the supercomputer assists in determining the lightning landing point, and selects 9 thunder tribulations to be temporarily stored by the condensed microbial cluster. After the pressure is relieved, it is guided to the ion channel through technical means, and finally falls into Yang Zhangchu's body of tribulation. Of course, Moning did not tell Yang Zhangchu all the words that contained a lot of chemical concepts, but demonstrated them with the secret treasures passed down by his ancestors. Elder Yang, I know you must still have a lot of doubts. After all, the things behind the Shanghai mountains are very different from the Damo realm. In the secret room, Moning was making the final handover with Yang Zhangchu, so let's do this. I will contact the clan first and transport some of the equipment that will be used for the tribulation to Zhejiang City. At that time, you will use the same or stronger means as the thunder tribulation yourself or with the help of talismans. If those magic tools can resist the attack, we will discuss other details. If the magic tools fail under the bombardment, then there is no need to pay hush money or anything, and we will never say a word to anyone. If you find that the news has been leaked, just take my life. Yang Zhangchu heard this and looked at Moning deeply. At this point, there is actually no question of whether to leak or not. Even if Moning didn't show up, he would definitely confess to Yang Wenbing and the others that his Dao heart was unstable during this period. At most, it was just a few days short of Damori, which didn't make much difference. This kind of time was actually not enough for the traitors themselves or other neutral or opposing forces. The traitors couldn't gather all the materials for the traitors, and the hostile forces couldn't take advantage of the opportunity to enter. After all, Zhejiang City had a 4th-level defense array, and even attacking the city in a hurry would cost a lot. It was just that Moning was a catalyst, tearing down the paper that was about to break but didn't break. Afterwards, Yang Zhangchu considered it carefully and said, "Shopkeeper Ma, I agree with your opinion. The magic tools can be delivered at any time, and you can go to Boli to hand over the details. In addition, I want to ask, what materials are needed to activate these magic tools?" Moning thought for a while and said, "Monster crystals, a lot of monster crystals." Note, I saw some messages asking me to talk about the news about synthetic starch. I knew about this in the morning, but I didn't have time to read it. I just finished typing and am going to read that science article. I took a look at it at noon. Although no precious metal catalysts were used, 30 engineered recombinant enzymes were used, and the cost is still very high. But the advantage over precious metal catalysis is that at least you don't have to pay money to Eagle. I will write the analysis in the writer's words at that time. It doesn't count as subscription money, and only genuine readers can read it. It's a benefit. Chapter 364, A Little Bit of Processing Fee. Before the discovery of the Kyangu Mountain Pit, local weapons expert Tang Pin had made a major breakthrough in research. That is, it is possible to artificially synthesize helium-ferrous microcrystals and restore some of the effects of the barrier crystal array in the Mo family's secret room. This barrier crystal array composed of helium-ferrous microcrystals can be said to be the biggest trump card for the rabbits to fight against the nascent soul realm alone. Even super energy light exceeding 70 TeV cannot physically destroy the barrier of the crystal array. Considering that this concept is relatively unpopular, here's a brief popular science on what TeV means. The commonly used energy unit for fusion is MeV, and the numbers in front are generally not large. The highest photon released by the proton chain reaction in the Sun is about 5 MeV. And 1 TeV equals 10 to the 6th power MeV. In other words, 5 MeV and 70 TeV differ by 7 orders of magnitude. What does 7 orders of magnitude mean? The weight of a small ant's head and an adult's head is about 8 orders of magnitude different, and 7 orders of magnitude is about the difference between an ant's head and a watermelon. At this order of magnitude, if the opponent wants to crush you to death, You just need to blow a breath. Of course. The world is so big, there are always exceptions. For example, the weight difference between an adult and Tiga is about 6 or 7 orders of magnitude, but Tiga was defeated by some humans, and the reason was extremely funny. How ridiculous. The site returned to the original place. Theoretically, the super energy light of 70 TeV is enough to disintegrate the planet, but the premise is still that there is an equivalent in time. Therefore, the crystal array that can block this level of light, let alone the nascent soul realm, has no physical way to do it. In other words, there is almost no possibility of any breakthrough purely by external force. However, if there are enough cyanide ions, the effect of the crystal array will be instantly reduced by several levels. This is an irreparable defect. This defect is fatal, but the thunder tribulation is obviously not within the scope of this defect. In the secret room, hearing Man Ying's request for a large number of monster crystals, Yang Zhengchu's eyes flashed with a strange color. Monster crystals are indeed extremely precious in the Great Mo realm, but its main application direction is to provide power for the formation. Therefore, for a power, after the reserves of monster crystals reach a certain amount, although the value is still there, the demand is not so high. Then Yang Zhengchu thought about it and asked, "Shopkeeper Ma, if we both reach a cooperation intention, I wonder how many monster crystals you will need to consume when you cross the tribulation." Man Ying blinked, pretending to be hesitant and put on a thoughtful expression. In fact, he was waiting for the response of the headquarters. After a while, several subtle pulse vibrations came from the device close to his waist. Seeing this, Man Ying looked determined and said, "Elder Yang, if nothing unexpected happens, the whole process may require more than 2,000 monster crystals." In the previous research of Tang Pin's team, it was mentioned that the artificial synthesis of helium-ferrous microcrystals requires a lot of energy. The specific process involves monster crystals and mech isotopes, that is, mech-29. At that time, Tang Pin's team discovered that monster crystals, that is, solid spiritual crystals, will become very active with mech-29 under 160,000 atmospheres of pressure. And it happens to undergo a certain chemical reaction. This reaction is the source of the channel for producing helium-ferrous microcrystals. This chemical combination can provide a certain area of helium-ferrous cyclic chain reaction, and the volume ratio of the two sides is about 1 to 500. That is, 1 cubic centimeter of solid spiritual energy mech-290 mixture can provide about 500 cubic centimeters of barrier zone formation energy. The rabbits currently have only 7 monster crystals, and the volume is about 50,000 to 60,000 cubic centimeters. That is to say, all the monster crystals in the camp are added together, and theoretically, they are only enough for 25 cubic meters of space. Note, it is cubic meters, not square meters. The space volume required for Yang Zhengchu to survive the tribulation is at least more than 10,000 cubic meters. Therefore, Man Ying proposed the requirement of a large number of monster crystals. Of course, the camp calculated the volume including the internal filling at that time, which is somewhat different from the situation of Yang Zhengchu's tribulation. With the help of supercomputers, the actual space volume will definitely be reduced a little. Just like a bowl upside down on the table. The space it can enclose is called volume, and the amount of its own raw materials is the material volume. If it is fully calculated, the volume of ferrous helium that Yang Zhengchu needed to survive the catastrophe was about 1,500-2,000 cubic meters, that is, a large cover with a thickness of 0.5 meters. Of course, the specific model still needs to be simulated by supercomputers. In other words, at least more than 400 monster crystals are needed for a single time, and a monster crystal can last for 45 hours. The whole process consumes about 1,000. This number is not small, but it is not outrageous. On average, there are more than 20 people in the Jiandin realm and Zhiqiang city every generation, and the actual number is at least 40. The number of monsters in the same realm in the monster world is about 5 to 8 times that of the Damo world. Therefore, theoretically, Zhiqiang city needs to successfully survive more than 200 years of beast tides to gather 1,000 monster crystals. It is not easy, but it is definitely not unaffordable. After all, the lowest purity of monster crystals is 70%, as long as it is a third-level monster, it can be produced regardless of the front, middle and back. And the higher the realm, the higher the purity. A monster crystal of a late monster can even be equivalent to nearly 10 ordinary monster crystals. Therefore, Taking into account the family heritage of Zhejiang City, it may only take more than 200 years to gather them together. But don't think about other things during this period, just work as a worker. But no matter what, more than 200 years of reserves in exchange for a possibility of breaking through the nascent soul, this is simply a big profit. Of course, more than 1,000 monster crystals are just the material cost. The rabbits provided a lot of manpower and material resources, so it is completely reasonable to ask for some hard work fees, right? So Yang Bali reported the number of 2,000. However, this kind of thing is a tacit rule that is tacitly agreed upon by both parties. On the surface, the rabbits only asked for a few places in the monster palace. Yang Zhangchu obviously understood this. So he didn't ask the rabbits how much they wanted, but asked how many materials were needed for the whole process. As long as they can survive the thunder tribulation, let alone 2,000 monster crystals, it is not unaffordable to triple or quadruple it. And if they can't survive the thunder tribulation, then Monying can't take away the remaining monster crystals, so there is no labor cost. As for what benefits the rabbits can get from the thunder tribulation, this belongs to the value brought by the world difference. Don't ask about the details. If you ask, it's just a loss-making support. Then Monying made a simple agreement with Yang Zhangchu and others that the relevant equipment is expected to be transported to Zhejiang City within 3 Damo days. These equipment include many instruments for preparing ferrous helium, a large number of ion channel instruments, etc. It also includes Tehu light. After all, due to the existence of the light gate, it is difficult for the local area and the Damo world to communicate information in real time. The area occupied by the Tehu light cabinet is actually not large, just over 600 square meters. This area may be much smaller than many people expected, and it is easy to transport, and there is no possibility of any leakage. Therefore, the main difficulty is not the size of Tehu light, but its power consumption under high load, and the handover of the original computing power after it is sent to the Damo world. The current load of Tehu light is less than that of Cheyenne, about 55%, but the specific amount is very terrifying. For example, the user portrait painting of the 3 major operators is completed by Tehu light. Some are open to individual users, and the price is about 1 cent per core. This price is not expensive. Many upmasters need CPU or GPU computing power to render videos, and often apply for supercomputing assistance. Generally, the cost of 1 round is less than 100 yuan. If Tehu light stops computing without any preparation, the public systems of at least 4 provinces will be completely paralyzed in an instant. The loss starts directly at tens of billions. Therefore, the specific handover does require a lot of effort and cannot be done overnight. Just when the 2 sides simply reached an agreement, Chixin City ushered in a group of unexpected visitors. Note, the writer's words contain some of my explanations on synthetic starch. Let's get straight to the point. The writer's words can only be written in 500 words. First of all, let's talk about the concept of synthesizing starch from carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide to starch is actually the process from carbon 1 to multiple carbons. It is very simple in words, but it is actually very difficult. The synthesis and accumulation of starch in nature involves about 60 processes, and the theoretical energy conversion efficiency is only about 2%. Xiang Guang's experiment this time was completed in only 11 steps, and it was not reduced, but a completely new way was designed. It's like it takes a normal person 13 years to graduate from elementary school to university, but the country has discovered a new teaching model that allows people to graduate in 3 years. However, no one has tasted the synthetic starch yet, so no one knows what it tastes like. Another very special thing about this experiment is that very few people knew about it before it was released. I majored in physics and have been in the circle for a while, so it's normal that I don't know this kind of news, but it's strange that some other biochemists didn't hear about it. I asked several friends from USTC, Zhejiang University, Wuhan University and Guangzhou University, and they said they had no idea about it before. This is actually quite rare. It's normal to keep confidentiality when developing many projects, but the degree of dissemination is generally not low before the paper is published. 500 words are coming soon. Let's talk about a cost issue in the next chapter. I personally confirmed the relevant information yesterday. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 365, True Visitors from Shanghai Mountain Range. Is it true? In the Xinhao camp, Lin Li was looking at Yan Xiaoxin in front of him with a confused face. Captain Yan, tell me again, what did you find? Looking at the confused Lin Li, Yan Xiaoxin couldn't help but pull out a helpless smile at the corner of his mouth. Just when he got the news not long ago, the expression on his face was almost the same as Lin Li's. Then he took a deep breath and repeated, Captain Lin, our reconnaissance plane found a caravan with strange clothes about 40 kilometers away from Qi County. According to the identification of the Old Master Wei, these people may come from the back of the Shanghai Mountains. Lin Li opened his mouth slightly, but finally did not speak. Good guy. Ma Ning and his team had just raised the flag of the Shanghai Mountains in Zhejiang City, and the real owner came to the door. Then Lin Li adjusted his glasses and locked his eyes on a certain area on the big map. He murmured, Shanghai Mountains, I don't know if there are still friends who remember it. Among the 7 plans made by the rabbits, there is a plan called Kingshan. The implementation of this plan is the military base, which is a military and a civil plan with a dawn plan of the life experiment base. The Sky Plan includes the modification of the parameters of the 8th Master and the 10th Master, the construction of military factories, etc. Similarly, it includes the long-term task of exploration and patrol. In the past period of time, the airport of the military base has been completely built. This progress is not exaggerated. After all, it takes 7 months. With this time and a large number of engineers, it would be strange if a temporary airport was still used. Under the premise that the hardware has been prepared, the headquarters gradually began to explore the surrounding areas in detail and obtained a lot of intelligence. At first it was 150 kilometers, then 300 kilometers, and then 600 of course. It is mainly based on the terrain, and it is not exposed in front of those cities. During the exploration process, the headquarters found that there is no visual barrier in the north and west directions of Chixin City, and the vision can be infinitely expanded. There is only one main reason that affects the exploration range, the range of the reconnaissance aircraft, or the fuel capacity. The southeast and southeast directions are a bit strange. The Xiaolianzi mountain, where the Shuangshaoyu battle broke out, was located more than 300 kilometers southeast of Chixin City, which was a very remote area. At the same time, with Xiaolianzi mountain as the dividing line, the further east the reconnaissance aircraft went, the stronger the interference it received. When it reached a distance of about 500 kilometers, the reconnaissance aircraft dared not move forward any further. Near-ground thunderstorms, electromagnetic interference, and extremely low visibility air. In short, the environment was extremely harsh. And at this distance, vast mountains and forests began to appear on the ground. It was endless and deep, with no end in sight. It was not until later that the rabbits realized that that location was already the periphery of the Shanghai Mountains. Going further, it was the main body of the Shanghai Mountains that separated the south region from the vast wasteland behind. The length of the Shanghai Mountains is unknown, but it can only be confirmed that it covers the entire periphery of the south region. As for the width, it is conservatively estimated to be hundreds of kilometers, at least as wide as the Himalayas. In addition, the Shanghai Mountains contain a large number of unknown forces, and several of them interfere with the aircraft's progress. In addition, there are swamps, mirages, and even curses. But it is very strange that it is very difficult for the southern region to pass through the Shanghai Mountains, but it is much easier for the tribes behind the Shanghai Mountains to enter the southern region. They don't seem to be affected by the negative state of the Shanghai Mountains. Almost every once in a while, there will be a caravan from the back of the Shanghai Mountains. It is for this reason that the rabbits dared to pretend to be visitors from the back of the Shanghai Mountains to fool Zhejiang City. Of course, the word visitor is not a common term in the central region. People in the central region prefer to call the tribes behind the Shanghai Mountains barbarians. Barbarian culture is a completely different inheritance from the 3 central regions, and its origin is extremely mysterious. But just like the personality borrowed by the rabbits, barbarians can sometimes come up with some weird things, so most cities are not opposed to barbarians. In the rabbits' plan, the headquarters will definitely deal with the barbarians in the future, and even do some big business. But Lin Li didn't expect that the time of this contact would be so early. This will undoubtedly be a very important meeting. First of all, The barbarians have different cultural systems. Whether it is language or living habits, the research on species diversity has a very high research value. Secondly, there is a difference in the cultivation system. If the three central regions cultivate the god, then the barbarians cultivate the body. Then Lin Li looked at Yan Xiaoxin. Captain Yan, what is the speed of the barbarian caravan? Yan Xiaoxin thought for a while and replied, except for the livestock pulling the goods, the entire barbarian caravan is walking, and the speed is not fast. 40 kilometers of the road. I estimate that it may take nearly 10 hours to arrive. Lin Li nodded thoughtfully, then motioned Yan Xiaoxin not to leave, and then said to his assistant Zhang Guanghua, Xiao Zhang, go and notify Professor Dai Qiaohong and Director Shi Zhehan to come over, and say that there is a special situation to discuss. By the way, don't forget to notify Colonel Lin and let him eat some red dates as soon as possible. 30 minutes later, all the personnel arrived. The meeting lasted for about 40 minutes. Then a series of instructions were issued, and the camp in parts of Qi County City quickly began to respond. Some large equipment that was temporarily useless was put away. The security forces near the light gate began to be strengthened, and the entire valley began to be under martial law outside, and some camouflage measures were deployed. At the same time, the security status of Qi County City was raised to the highest level, and several drones were released. 11 hours later, a large group of bustling people appeared in the southeast of Qi County City. There were about 60 people in this group. Together with a creature similar to an elk, they formed a long dragon of nearly 200 meters. There were men and women, old and young among these people. However, they were mainly adult men. When the rabbits first arrived in the Great Mo realm, they used drones to observe the environment of Qi County City. At that time, they found that although there were some extremely tall individuals in the Great Mo realm, the body size of ordinary people was a little shorter than that of the locals. The average height of an adult man is about 165 centimeters. I won't talk about the fear of being punched by adult women, so I'll leave it to your imagination. But this group of barbarians is different. According to the naked eye, among the more than 60 people, the height of adult men is generally over 190, and the shortest is estimated to be 180. And these people have brownish-red skin, and some of them have special runes on their faces. It is indeed a bit depressive to walk from a distance. And just before these people appeared, Lin Li and others had already arrived on the city wall and made various preparations. When the barbarians were about 500 meters away from the city wall, the old master Wei's breath shook and he said loudly, "Stop. Who is coming in front?" Note, more updates will be added starting tomorrow. Next, let's talk about the cost. The steps of this experiment are actually not difficult to summarize in words. First, carbon dioxide is reduced to methanol using an inorganic catalyst. Then methanol is converted into 3 carbons, followed by the synthesis of 6 carbons from 3 carbons, and finally, it is polymerized into starch. As mentioned in the previous chapter, the efficiency of synthesizing starch in nature is about 2%, while the efficiency of industrial synthesis can reach more than 10%. There are more than 30 kinds of bioengineering enzymes in the whole process, and I asked about the prices of 24 kinds in total, and I didn't ask about the others. The total cost of 1 milligram of these 24 is about 70,000 yuan, and the heavy metal catalytic replacement is about 60,000 yuan, but the heavy metal catalytic replacement has to pay the eagle. In short, the cost is still very high, not to mention the energy required. Xiangguang used solar energy this time, but actual production may require nuclear energy. However, in the long run, this thing needs to be developed in conjunction with controlled nuclear fusion plus biological enzymes. Let alone wandering the Earth, we should be able to wander around the solar system at will. Chapter 366 First Intimate Contact. As the old patriarch Wei finished speaking, the barbarian caravan stopped immediately. After a moment, a tall man walked out. It can be seen from the high-definition camera. This man exudes a rough aura, with an animal skin on his upper body, looking like a muscular golden wheel. There is a centipede-like pattern engraved on his face, and his long hair is shoulder length, a little fluffy and messy, and looks seldom taken care of. In addition, he has something like a cigarette in his mouth, and his eyes are full of wild beauty. After walking to the front of the docking, the tall man waved to the side again. Soon, another old man dressed in the same style as the central domain trotted to the man, and the two walked forward 10 steps together. After standing still, the man started talking. The old man took out a talisman, and with the help of the talisman, he began to translate, reporting to the Lord in front. I am from the Yange tribe behind the Shanghai mountains. I was ordered by the tribe to cross the mountains and come to the south region to exchange some supplies. Along the way, the caravan heard that Qi County City was accepting refugees, so they came to see if there was any possibility of trading. Please rest assured, lords. There is only one leader in the caravan who is about the same as the initial stage of foundation building in the central region, and you can guarantee that he will not enter the city. If the Lord is interested, just send someone out of the city to make a handover on the city wall. Hearing the old man's words, Linley said with some doubts, strange, isn't it said that the cultural system of the barbarians is different from that of the central region, and the languages of the two sides are completely incomprehensible? How come the group of people on the opposite side can speak the Great Mo language? Could it be disguised by some other force? When saying this, Linley's psychology was inexplicably subtle. After all, not long ago, the rabbits had just pulled the tribal flag behind the Shanghai mountains. This identity has not been exposed so far, and it has also brought huge profits to the rabbits. Of course. This is also related to the huge trade volume of happy sticks, and the Yang family has no intention of investigating it. Now that a caravan claiming to be from behind the Shanghai mountains has appeared, Linley naturally thought of this possibility. If that is the case, this is a nesting doll. Facing Linley's doubts, the old patriarch Wei was not surprised and took the initiative to comfort him. Captain Lin, don't worry. The barbarian language spoken by the leading man before was very authentic. Some syllables cannot be imitated by outsiders, and the appearance and body shape of the entire caravan are no different from those of the barbarians. In addition, I used my divine sense to detect that the other party is indeed practicing in an alien way, without any spiritual power fluctuations. Therefore, there is no doubt about the origin of the caravan. It must be a tribe among the barbarians. As for the little old man, he is a language translator. Language translator, yes, a language translator? The old patriarch Wei nodded and explained, this is an uncommon profession. You need to be proficient in both the barbarian language and the Great Mo language to be qualified to enter the industry. Language translators generally live on the edge of the Shanghai mountains and have some special way of contact with the tribes behind the Shanghai mountains. Whenever a barbarian caravan arrives in the southern region, there will be language translators to travel with the caravan, responsible for guiding and translating the language. As a reward, both the buyer and the seller have to give him a certain commission, which is also the main source of income for the speech translator. The speech translator basically does not open for 10 years, and makes a living for 10 years after opening. It can be regarded as a special professional group. Linley suddenly realized, I see, the profession of speech translator in the Great Mo world actually exists in the local area, which is what is commonly known as a broker. In addition, in some novels, this profession is also called a wind hyacinth. Speaking of which book is this created, it is very widely spread. In short, they need to have a very good understanding of the distribution of cities in a certain area, and they also need to have certain language skills. In a sense, Wei Niandong was also a speech translator at the time. As for why the old master Wei knew about the profession of speech translator, it was mainly related to the geographical location of Qi County. The straight line distance between Qi County and Shanghai Mountains is only more than 600 kilometers, which is only the east-west span of a province in the local area. Some western provinces are more than that. For example, the east-west span of Shuzhong in the local area is as long as 1,000 kilometers. Therefore, although the barbarian caravans are relatively rare, you can still encounter one or two in the Qi County area every 10 or 20 years. Even in Zhejiang City, which is more than 2,000 miles away, you can still encounter a barbarian caravan every 70 or 80 years. For example, as mentioned before, one of the ancestors of Zhejiang City married a concubine from the barbarians. This can also be regarded as a regional feature. In other countries on the earth, if you want to see a rolling, you may have to cross the border to have a chance. But if you are in the Magic City, if you want to see a rolling, just go to the zoo when you have time. When you get to Sichuan and Shu, rolling is more common, and everyone rides rolling to school. The barbarian caravan is similar. The closer you are to the Shanghai Mountains, the more you will come into contact with them. Therefore, during the long communication process, the Wei family also learned more or less about the barbarian caravans. This includes the role of the language translator. On the city wall, Hearing the introduction of the old master Wei, Lin Li couldn't help but cast a hidden look at Shi Zheng, who was in charge of the government affairs of Qi County. Shi Zheng knew the meaning of the strings and returned a look of understanding. Lin Li's meaning was very simple: don't let this old man go. A broker who knows 2 languages is like a decryption card for the adventure tigers when it comes to analyzing a completely unknown language sample. Then Lin Li paused and said to the old master Wei, "Old master, please tell the other side that we agree to trade with them. But the caravan must be stationed outside the city and accept a certain degree of supervision. We will provide all kinds of living supplies and will not restrict their personal freedom. In principle. We also welcome those who want to visit the city, but they must report in advance and undergo security checks, from the perspective of free trade." Lin Li's request actually seems to be a little bit over the line. But from the perspective of the rabbits, this request is completely reasonable. After all, no one knows whether these barbarians with completely different cultural systems will bring any strange things. For example, they will have some emotional disputes. Afterwards, Patriarch Wei relayed Lin Li's request, and the barbarian caravan soon responded, agreed. The initial intention was reached, and the rest was not a big deal. After all, the rabbits have always been friendly to guests from afar. As long as the other party does not show any malice, the rabbits will never try to harm the other party. Soon, Lin Ziming led a group of people and supplies out of the city and contacted the barbarian caravan. At the same time, in order to show his friendly attitude, Patriarch Wei and the 3 Foundation establishment cultivators Wei Shudu and Wei Fan did not go with the team this time. The highest level of the entire handover team was Lin Ziming, who is now at the 5th level of key training, and the short-haired girl Shi Yin, who had been abroad several times before, was responsible for translation. That's right. Not a single high-level key training cultivator accompanied them. In the perception of the barbarian caravan, the Qi County city delegation was almost all a bunch of weak chickens. Therefore, the barbarians' original vigilance suddenly disappeared by half, and they were even vaguely moved. On the way to Qi County, they had come into contact with several cities, but the other side almost regarded the caravan as an enemy and was extremely defensive. In the end, most of them left unhappily. It is said that the people of Qi County are simple and kind, and it is indeed well deserved. The caravan leader wanted to let the city lords of other cities see what a friendly attitude is. This is it. What? You ask what those soldiers holding the latest 95 type psychic bullets and the 12.7mm psychic sniper rifles in the distance are doing? Don't ask, just ask. The Honor Guard 28 has double monthly tickets. Chapter 367: The Rabbit's Killer Weapon. Although the barbarians' cultural system is different from that of the central domain, they still have the necessary judgment. Especially for the tribesmen who can be sent out to trade, their thoughts are not close to the central domain's ideas, but at least they can resonate with them to a certain extent. Therefore, after sensing that there were no high-level practitioners in the Chixin City delegation, the entire caravan relaxed and naturally made some responses. The tall man in the lead looked behind and shouted a character with unknown meaning. After a while, several of the strongest barbarians took the initiative to put down the small boxes in their hands, and the caravan began to rest on the spot. If this is a cat-stroking game, the barbarians are now in a state of letting down their guard and actively coming up to smell your scent. As for whether you can get your hands on it or even see it turn over, it depends on your next performance. Da-da-da, the military boots made a fine friction sound on the stones on the sand, and the whole team soon arrived 20 meters away from the Chamber of Commerce's stop area. Then Lin Ziming signaled everyone to stop. Everyone, stay where you are. Zio Shi, let's go. Shi Yin hurriedly followed, and the two walked calmly in front of the tall man. Looking at this strong man who was a head taller than him, Lin Ziming smiled generously and performed a common etiquette in the Great Mo world. Hello, I am Lin Ziming. I am one of the leaders of Qi County City, and I will be responsible for the handover with you this time. Shi Yin translated this sentence into the Great Mo language at the same time. The old man opposite secretly glanced at Lin Ziming, and a group of differences flashed in his eyes. It was not known whether he was curious about the Chinese language that he had never heard of, or was surprised that Lin Ziming could become the leader of Qi County City even though his realm was not high. However, this surprise was only fleeting, and the old man quickly translated these words into the barbarian language again. The leading man also said a bunch of meaningless words, which were then translated by the old man. Although the meaning of the words was unclear, Judging from the man's expression and actions, he was obviously greeting. As expected, Shi Yin said, "Colonel Lin, this leader said his name is Chilin, and he is a leader in the Yange tribe. According to the cultivation system of the central domain, his realm is about the 4th to 5th level of foundation building. This time they came to the south domain mainly to exchange some daily necessities through special products, and hope to reach some relatively stable trade cooperation intentions with some cities. Oh, and the translator opposite is called Xianqi, and he is an ordinary practitioner at the 2nd level of key training." Lin Ziming nodded thoughtfully. These few short sentences can actually reveal a lot of information, but without further information, many things cannot be judged. In addition, Lin Ziming did not have much time to think, so he simply gave up the opportunity to be Sherlock Holmes. "Commander Chilin, welcome to choose Qi County City as your trading partner this time. Please believe me, this will definitely be a win-win transaction. It's still a long time before the next night falls, and we still have plenty of time. So we might as well work together to vacate the camp first so that everyone has a place to rest. Of course, if you have any more private matters and want to deal with them yourself, Qi County City will never interfere. We have prepared a kind of accommodation called a tent, and you can experience it first. If you are used to it, you can live in it. If you are not used to it, we will talk about it later. In addition, everyone has come from afar and it has been hard on the journey, and our cooking, ahem, the cook has prepared a lot of meals. Everyone can fill their stomachs first, and only when you are full will you have the strength to work." Shi Yin relayed Lin Ziming's words to Master Yan and completed another round of relay. Chilin listened quietly to the translation of Master Yan, and then looked at the supplies not far away, with a subtle fluctuation in his eyes. It has been mentioned before. The tribes behind the Shanghai Mountains are much more primitive than those in the central area, and are almost backward in all aspects. Although primitive does not necessarily mean simple, most primitive tribes are very sensitive. Therefore, they can easily tell whether others are really good to them or not. In the past few decades, Chilin has led the team to do a lot of transactions with the cities in the southern region. He can clearly feel that Lin Ziming is different from the usual people. It is a kind of boldness and friendliness from the heart. It is definitely not sense to say that he was moved to tears by Lin Ziming's words, but at least in the deepest part of his heart, there was still a faint tremor. Then he looked at the tribesman behind him and said, "There is nothing shameful in the caravan. If Lord Lin doesn't mind the trouble, please send someone to set up a camp with us." As for the food, Qi Long originally planned to refuse. After all, the law of the jungle prevails in the Great Mo realm, and there might be some smiling tigers secretly plotting behind the scenes. Even though the reputation of Qi County City is good, he didn't dare to test it easily. But by chance, just when he was about to say the second half of the sentence, a breeze with a fragrance came into his nose. Don't think that this gust of wind is too strong. The specific position of the delegation had been determined a few hours ago. What kind of square formation is not easy to give people a sense of oppression, and which direction of the position can pass the fragrance over are all plans that have been formulated long ago. The direction of the Barbarian Chamber of Commerce is fixed, so the command center only needs to assume that the distance they stay is enough. The command center formulated a total of multiple plans ranging from 50 meters to 1,000 meters at that time, and Lin Ziming and his team only needed to follow the steps. So it was not accidental that Chilin could smell this fragrance, but an inevitable result. This was a smell he had never smelled before. Rich, fresh and fragrant, as if it was seducing people. In fact, Chilin was not the only one who smelled this fragrance. Many other barbarians were also seduced by this fragrance and looked back frequently. Therefore, Chilin hesitated for a while and called a middle-aged man with a sallow face from not far away. "Thank you for the food provided by Lord Lin. To be honest, we did not bring much rations this time. But I have an unwelcome request, that is. Can you let him check it first before the meal?" These slightly literary words were naturally processed by the two translators. In fact, Chilin's original words were more vulgar, but it was irrelevant. Lin Ziming glanced at the withered middle-aged man and readily agreed, "No problem, you can check it however you want." Chilin was overjoyed when he heard this. "Thank you, Lord Lin." Lin Ziming nodded politely, and then shouted to Gao Feng, the squad leader of the accompanying cooking squad, "Xiao Gao, you put everything on the ground, let them check it however they want." Gao Feng immediately saluted. "Yes, note, there is another chapter in the early morning, so you don't have to wait deliberately." The reader group has been upgraded to a group of thousands, and everyone can join the group chat. By the way, do you have any delicious snacks? Please recommend them. Any delicious thing will be fine, and it is best if it can be purchased online. Chapter 368: The Rabbit's Killer Weapon. 10 minutes later. Several boxes of lunch, canned food and instant noodles packed in foam boxes were placed on the ground. Gao Feng led his men to retreat more than 20 meters and maintain a suitable distance. Seeing this, Qilong gently patted the withered man on the shoulder. The man responded to him with a chattering sound and trotted to the foam box. He first took out a wooden box from his body, which looked like a pear blossom needle in the rain, and gently opened it. Then, buzzing buzz buzz, several golden flying insects flew out of it, circled twice and flew to the foam box, seasoning in pots in turn. After a while, they flew out with soup and flew to the next target. The flying insects lasted for 10 minutes before they checked all the boxes of lunch and returned them all to the cans. The insects seemed to have brought back some good news. The withered man flashed a trace of relief between his eyebrows, walked quickly to the foam box, and gently picked up a bowl of braised beef-flavored instant noodles in a plastic bowl, plus the army's beef cans. After opening the lunchbox, he first greedily inhaled the aroma, closed his eyes and shook his head left and right, then quickly picked up the noodles. Perhaps it was because the instant noodles were too fragrant. It was not until more than 10 seconds later that the rice eater remembered his task. He paused, and just as he was about to speak, the chopsticks in his hand uncontrollably added another chopstick of noodles. He stuffed it into his mouth and chewed it for a few times before muttering something to Qilin. Qilin nodded while listening, and finally turned around and yelled at the barbarians. Tianxi said that these words were not translated, and it seemed to be internal communication. If nothing unexpected happened, it was mostly about not eating too ugly, not bringing shame to the tribe or the old man. After speaking, Qilin waved his hand. Many barbarians ran to the foam box in a bustling manner, and another deputy distributed the food. It looked like the extras distributing lunchboxes in Hengdian Film and Television City, or the kind of puppet soldiers. It was obvious. The barbarians' material conditions were relatively ordinary. There might be monsters or wild beasts that could provide energy, but there was basically no need to think about the beauty of food. Looking at the caravan members feasting, Qilin suppressed his hunger and asked Lin Ziming, "Master Lin, may I ask what this is?" Lin Ziming smiled at him. "White elephant instant noodles. I don't know if anyone has experienced the note at the end of the last century and the beginning of this century. In that era, traveling far away from home would inevitably involve a green train. Food, drinks, daily necessities, etc. were all thrown into the carriages one by one. The whole train was in chaos and a bit sad. It was normal for a train to take more than 10 hours. At this time, the existence of instant noodles became particularly important. As the market for fast food products expanded rapidly, more and more companies and capital joined in. In addition to the initial Hulong 108 instant noodles, in the 1990s, brands such as Jinmeilang also emerged. Among them, there is a very representative instant noodle, simple packaging, chewy noodles, cheap price, plus the iconic single seasoning package. It is Baixiang instant noodles. It is also one of the few pure domestic products among the existing instant noodles. After several years of rapid development, Baixiang has become an industry giant in one fell swoop, and even once ranked third in the instant noodle industry. Time flies, and the years are like a shuttle. Baixiang's feelings remain, but it has gradually fallen behind in the market. However, in the recent flood in Hangzhou, Baixiang resolutely donated 5 million Chinese yuan. It evoked the memories of countless people. Now on the map of the other world, this once glorious old brand may have a chance to usher in its spring again. Half an hour later, the barbarian caravan ate up all the food prepared by the kitchen team, licked the corners of their mouths and began to clean up the camp. Qilin brought Master Yuan to find Lin Li and got straight to the point. "Master Lin, how much do instant noodles and canned beef sell for?" "Don't call me Master Lin, it's a bit uncomfortable, just call me Manager Lin." Lin Ziming corrected Qilin's title first, and then said, "Commander Qilin, the price of these two materials is not very expensive, but not particularly cheap either. But I guess you won't understand the price directly, and we are bartering, so shouldn't we agree on an equivalent first?" As soon as the word equivalent came out, Lin Ziming suddenly had a strong sense of déjà vu in his mind. When has a similar situation happened? But it was different from the meeting between the rabbits and the Wei family. At the beginning, the Wei family and the local area had the bond of Wei Siming and Lin Lejiao, which could be said to be a wanderer returning home, and the trust value was full from the beginning. But this time, there was no too solid foundation of trust between the rabbits and the barbarian Chamber of Commerce, so it didn't make much practical sense to directly introduce the concept of huaxia currency. And with the current development progress of the rabbits, there is no need to spend extra effort to guide others to accept huaxia currency as the equivalent. The circulation rate of huaxia currency in Chixin City has exceeded 98%, and Yangbi City has also exceeded 30%. Even the headquarters received intelligence. A small amount of huaxia currency has appeared in several nearby cities about 100 miles away, suspected to be brought there by some wandering merchants. Since huaxia currency cannot serve as an equivalent, there are not many options available. So after discussion, Lin Ziming and Qilin finally reached a consensus to use Lingxi as the equivalent for calculation. At this moment, Qilin was walking with Lin Ziming in the station, introducing the goods they brought with them. Our Yang's tribe is a small tribe behind the Shanghai mountains. The population is about 20,000, and there are about 15 or 16 strong people in the Cation realm. The entire tribe is close to a volcano, which is rich in a mineral called blazing stone. Blazing stone can be used for body training, and can also be used for refining magic tools and formations in the central domain. It is extremely valuable. Lin Ziming listened quietly on the side, occasionally nodding in agreement. The cultivation system behind the Shanghai mountains is completely different from that in the central domain. It is mainly divided into body refining and heavenly arts. Among them, body refining is needless to say. To put it bluntly, it is about muscle training. Heavenly arts are divided into a series of side doors such as poisonous insects, curses, and spirit contracts. Barbarian culture does not have a specific concept of spiritual energy, and there is almost no distinction between cultivation qualifications. Spiritual roots still exist, but they do not lead to innate resource tendencies. Everyone can practice, and whoever is stronger is awesome. It is very likely that a person with a single spiritual root will end up with the same progress as a person with 4 spiritual roots because he does not have enough resources. In the entire barbarian culture, the practitioners of body training accounted for about 70%. The realms from low to high are lifting stone, opening mountain, fighting sky, returning to the void, etc. Among them, lifting stone corresponds to the key training realm, and opening mountain corresponds to the foundation building realm. It is also the realm that Qilin belongs to now. These data are all the intelligence collected by the rabbits before. They can only know the general situation, and they don't know when it comes to details. For example, the fiery stone mentioned by Qilin, this material has never been heard of by the rabbits before. Perhaps realizing this, Qilin took out a piece of fiery red stone from his body and handed it to Lin Ziming. Manager Lin, this is the fiery stone. Lin Ziming took it carefully. As soon as he got it, he raised his eyebrows slightly. Wow, the temperature is so high. As soon as he got this fiery stone, he felt a burning sensation. Although this burning sensation is not much harmful to Lin Ziming, who is already at the 5th level of key training, it is still very obvious in terms of physical sensation. Lin Ziming simply estimated that the temperature of this fiery stone is about 55 degrees. Chishi, it really lives up to its name. My mom bought a can of condensed milk. Originally she wanted to give it to my cousin's child, but now I have eaten half of it. Chapter 369 Gift. The size of this blazing stone is about the size of a pomegranate, and it is red all over. The color and feel are somewhat similar to the local red bricks. But Lin Ziming can feel it. This blazing stone contains a small but very clear energy. Lin Ziming has 3 spiritual roots: fire, earth and gold. When he touched this energy, he vaguely felt that this energy should be able to help him practice. Obviously. Unlike aura, which is a universal substance that is suitable for all spiritual roots, blazing stone is relatively limited or directional. Only practitioners with fire spiritual roots can use it normally. In addition, the absorption efficiency of blazing stone and whether it contains harmful substances also need to be observed by subsequent means to determine. Of course, compared with the trouble of instrument testing, the rabbits have another way to initially eliminate risks: seek help off-site. Just as Lin Ziming was playing with a blazing stone in his hand, Lin Li's voice suddenly came from the earphone. Colonel Lin, we have just contacted President Wei in Zhejiang City. Blazing stone is indeed a common commodity for the Barbarian Chamber of Commerce. However, compared with some ores in the central area, The elemental properties of blazing stone are more concentrated. Therefore, it is relatively limited, and in a sense, it has a small amount of characteristics of spirit stone. The purchase price of blazing stone is generally 1 spirit stone for 10 blazing stones. If it is sent to Zhejiang City for resale, it can be sold at a ratio of 1 to 5. Lin Ziming understood it. The transportation in the Great Mo realm is relatively primitive, so it is not surprising that regional materials can be exchanged for huge profits. Don't you see that even with the developed shipping level of local high-speed rail and airplanes, there are still some prices in the east, west, south and north? Of course. National airdrops are not included. Moreover, the barbarian chamber of commerce does not appear frequently. If you don't make a large profit from an occasional transaction, then the transaction itself is not worth much. After knowing the situation in mind, Lin Ziming returned the blazing stone to Qilin, intending to return it to its original owner. Unexpectedly, Qilin waved at him cheerfully and took out a stone whistle from his body. He handed it to Lin Ziming together with a blazing stone and said a few more words. Master Yan translated honestly, Manager Lin, Commander Qilin said that you match his temper. The blazing stone and the stone whistle are gifts for you. Just consider it as making friends. It's not worth much, so please don't despise it, Master Yan translated with a hint of surprise on his face. Obviously, this kind of gift-giving behavior is not common. Looking at the 2 objects pushed in front of him, Lin Ziming was stunned. After coming to his senses, he subconsciously wanted to refuse. However, after meeting Qilin's simple and hearty smile, the words on his lips could not be said. He pursed his lips and hesitated for a few seconds, and finally made a decision. He took out a pistol from his body and checked the safety. He took the 2 gifts from Qilin with one hand, and handed over the pistol with the other hand. I dare not refuse the gift from the distinguished guest. Mr. Yan, please tell Commander Qilin. This Type 92 pistol will be my return gift. I hope Commander Qilin will take it seriously. The gift from Qilin was not heavy, and it was even questionable whether the stone whistle could be blown. But the key lies in the sincerity reflected by these 2 things. From the expression of Master Yan, it can be seen that it is not common for barbarians to give gifts. Obviously, Qilin was moved by the attitude shown by the rabbits. Therefore, the most appropriate thing at this time is to give another more meaningful gift in return. However, it is embarrassing. At this time, Lin Ziming does not have many valuable things around him. Oh, there's a girl named Shi Yin. But you can't just give the girl away like this, right? The Great Mo realm is not a local university, and it does not need to have a study partner or something like that. After thinking about it, only this Type 92 pistol is the most suitable. As the main person in charge of the Xinhao camp troops, Lin Ziming naturally has certain rights to dispose of weapons. As for the possible risks of weapons leaking out, just kidding. This is the Great Mo realm, and Qi Long is a strong man in the Caitian realm, which is equivalent to the 4th or 5th level of the Foundation building. If it is a core weapon such as a 12.7mm psychic sniper rifle, then it must be cautious. But a 92 type pistol is really irrelevant. The range of the 92 type pistol is only 50 meters, and its power is comparable to the attack of the 6th level of key training. Even if Qi Long is not following the cultivation system of the central domain, he still has a lot of ways to replace the effect of the 92 type pistol. Then Lin Ziming simply released a 92 type usage, including how to open the safety and how to load bullets. After a round of exchanging small gifts, the atmosphere on the scene has visibly improved. Then Qilin took Lin Ziming to another wooden cart, picked up a purple animal skin, and said, Manager Lin, here are some monster skins and bones, as well as some medicinal materials unique to the Shanghai mountains. For example, the fur of this purple velvet fox is also very popular in the central area. A city we have been in contact with for a long time, and every time we trade, they specifically require a large amount of purple velvet fox fur. Hearing this, Lin Ziming couldn't help but look at the fur carefully. If I remember correctly, during the first Zhejiang market, he did see some noble ladies wearing clothes of similar fur and color in Zhejiang City, and vaguely heard that this kind of fur is very valuable. Then he thought of something and asked curiously, Commander Qilin, since you have done long-term transactions with another city, why are you looking for another partner this time? Hearing Master Yan's translation, Qilin shook his head, because that city was destroyed by the beast tide not long ago, and only a ruin was left when we arrived. Lin Ziming was silent for a while and sighed softly. The price of purple fox fur is not low. Cities that can purchase this material in large quantities for a long time are probably not too weak. The stronger the city, the more mortals it has. It is conceivable that such a city was destroyed by the beast tide. Then the two of them had a brief exchange and determined the material situation of the barbarian chamber of commerce. The main body of the trade is blazing stone. Chilin did not tell the specific amount, but it must be a lot. The second is various monster materials and special spiritual plants behind the Shanghai mountains. The rest are some strange insects. These insects have been cultivated to maturity and are non-renewable resources. They can perform some special tasks, such as checking whether food is safe. The demands of the barbarian chamber of commerce are very simple: food, a lot of food. As for the rabbits, blazing stones are definitely needed, but they want much more than that. However, considering that the two sides are still in the early stages of trade, it is not appropriate to rashly make demands without understanding the sensitive points of the other party. Therefore, Lin Ziming temporarily parted with Chilin and returned to the city with his harvest. Then the regular meeting. Note, the update at midnight today was the third update yesterday, so there will be another update tonight. The update will continue from 28th tomorrow, and everyone can save the double monthly votes for tomorrow also. Tiga is back. Chapter 370 Debate. Qi County City. The main residence of the Wei Mansion. An impromptu meeting is being held. There are about a dozen participants, and they are all well known. They include Lin Li, Dai Chaohong, Shi Erhong, Lin Ziming, the old master of the Wei family, and some other experts. However, compared with the rank of the participants, the specifications of this meeting are not very high. After all, this is their home ground, and the barbarians have no means to eavesdrop on the content of the meeting. Being too formal seems a bit out of touch with reality. Therefore, many experts did not even go back to the headquarters, and started the meeting on the spot on the main residence of the Wei Mansion. The security measures are just ordinary martial law. At this moment, at the meeting, Shi Erhong, the general manager in charge of the material dispatch of Qi County City, was expressing his views. Everyone, I would like to put forward a personal opinion. That is, can we make appropriate concessions in terms of profits this time in exchange for a relatively friendly trading environment? There is still a long way to go, and we don't need to sacrifice the future for the immediate interests. If the situation is special, I think we can even consider trading at cost price. Director Shi, I have an opinion. As soon as Shi Zhehong finished speaking, another female expert raised her hand. This person is called Yang Ke, an economic expert from Zhangzhou University. Currently working at the Foreign Trade Behavior Research Center of the Ministry of Commerce, with the rank of Deputy Director. Yang Ke said, Director Shi, I agree with the second half of your sentence. Long-term interests are undoubtedly more important than the small amount of gold and silver in front of us. But the question is, how can we ensure that we can obtain long-term interests? Or to put it bluntly, how do you know that Chilin is telling the truth? Yang Ke paused after speaking and looked around. At the same time, he brushed a strand of hair behind his head, and after getting Lin Li's instruction, he continued, at present, all our information about the Yange tribe comes from Chilin. In economics, this situation is called a one-way information source. And one-way information sources often contain huge risks. Yes, Chilin has been confirmed to be a barbarian, but that's all. I want to ask you, who can guarantee that he is not exaggerating? Maybe he is the strongest person in the Yange tribe, maybe the entire tribe is actually a small group of hundreds of people. This possibility is completely possible in theory. If this is true, then their batch of goods may be the accumulation of several years or even decades. We gave up the profit here, but they didn't even think about the next transaction, and we don't even know where to find a place to reason. There is also the problem of the road. The border of the Shanghai Mountains is more than 600 kilometers away from us. For the local industrialized civilization, more than 600 kilometers is nothing, and even 6,000 kilometers is just a small matter. But the barbarians rely on pure footwork. How can we ensure that they are willing to walk so far to trade next time? If we want them to come to Qi County City regardless of everything, we have to give them more than a little bit of concessions, which in turn increases the first risk. Lin Li glanced at her and asked, Expert Yang, what do you mean, normal transaction? And even the price can be raised depending on the situation. Yang Ke's tone was very firm. I have observed the vehicles of the barbarian caravans, and the number of blazing stones is definitely not small. If we can buy these blazing stones at a fair price, it doesn't matter even if the barbarians don't come in the future. Yankee's view is very practical. But it must be said that this possibility does exist at present. At present, all the information that the rabbits have about the Yange tribe actually comes from the mouth of Chillin. The so-called Yange tribe is building a trade relationship actually has little actual evidence. So no one knows whether he is using a false promise to dangle the rabbits in exchange for greater benefits. There are actually many such examples in the local area. The more civilian one is, boss, please give me a lower price, and I will buy from you in the future. Almost everyone has said this, but how many real repeat customers are there? At the official level, there are more than 100 or 200 cases of people pretending to be Hong Kong investors who have been deceived when attracting investment. Therefore, the possibility mentioned by Yankee does exist. If it is true, the amount involved will be quite large. The Barbarian Chamber of Commerce has a large amount of goods, and the unit price is not low. Therefore, it can be foreseen that the scale of the next transaction is destined to be not small. Even if a little profit is given up, it will not be a small number. If nothing unexpected happens, the value of the spirit stones in this transaction may be more than the income of the Fangxi trade group at the beginning. This is also the reason why the Barbarian Chamber of Commerce came from afar after hearing the news that Qi County City was gathering refugees. They also need a trading partner who can eat up the goods, and ordinary small cities cannot eat these. Qi County City, which is gathering refugees infinitely and is willing to give food in advance, obviously meets this transaction demand. And the concessions mentioned by Shi Zhehong start at least 15%, which is converted to nearly 20,000 spirit stones. This is not a small amount in any way. Although Zhejiang City just earned 300,000 spirit stones, we can't use the income there to transfer risks, right? Moreover, as a well-known foreign scorched rabbit, it would be a joke if it was cheated by a small barbarian tribe. After Yankee finished speaking, Shi Zhehong also fell silent. It's not that he was afraid of taking responsibility, but it was really stupid to stand up for the Yange tribe without any evidence and intersection. But at this moment, Dai Chaohong, who had been silent all the time, suddenly raised his hand. Everyone, let me share an idea. When we were talking about the purple fox for before, didn't Chilling say that they had cooperated with the city, but that city was destroyed by the beast tide not long ago? The Barbarian Chamber of Commerce is coming from the south of Chixin City, which means that the city must be in the south. And coincidentally, I remember that before the siege, Chixin City once gathered a group of refugees from the south. So I was thinking, among that group of refugees, are there people who once lived in that city and worked in related trade industries? It is not necessary to understand the information of the Yange tribe, as long as we can determine the frequency of the Chilin caravan's exchanges. Isn't what we are most worried about the fact that he gets something for nothing, but actually has no ability to trade again? As long as we can confirm that Chilling and his people are traveling frequently, then we can dispel our doubts. Lin Li's eyes lit up when he heard this. Then he quickly looked at Patriarch Wei and asked for confirmation. Patriarch Wei, is what Professor Dai said true? Patriarch Wei nodded very affirmatively. It is true. At that time, there was another beast tide raging in the south, destroying many cities. Half of the more than 8,000 refugees in the city came from the south. I saw that they were too pitiful, so I opened the city and distributed food, and provided some simple relief. Lin Li thanked him and looked at Zhang Guanghua. Xiao Zhang, have you found the ruins of Zhongda City within 300 kilometers south of Chixin City? Note, double monthly tickets, go for it. I'm working on some information submission for the Zhuhai Air Show in the evening. It's difficult for me to travel in Fujian, so this update is only at this time. This is the second update yesterday. I won't neglect this kind of chapter. There will be 3 more updates today, but as usual, one update may be in the early morning of the day after tomorrow. Chapter 371 Unexpected Person. After hearing Lin Li's instructions, Zhang Guanghu quickly took out a tablet and a Bluetooth keyboard and clicked a few times. Soon, the search results appeared on the screen. Report, within 300 kilometers south of Qi County, the ruins of more than 40 cities have been discovered. However, most of them are small cities, and there are only 4 large cities. Combined with the direction of the caravan, there is only one city that meets the requirements. Which city? Donglan City. Donglan City. Lin Li blinked and suddenly thought of something. Is it the city that Captain Yan jokingly called even if the beast tide is not destroyed, it will inevitably die under missiles? Zhang Guanghu nodded and said, yes, It is that city. Donglan City is a medium-sized city about 80 kilometers away from Qi County. According to the information the rabbits have, Donglan City has a population of about 30,000 to 40,000, and has many foundation building practitioners. The overall strength is weaker than Yangbai City, but much stronger than the original Qi County. At the same time, unlike the reputation of Qi County City for kindness, the Zhu family in Donglan City is extremely evil. They bully men and women, are extremely tyrannical, and treat human lives as worthless. I don't know how many people die every year. The Zhu family even raised a robber who specifically attacked business travelers. So what Yan Xiaoxin said was not just empty talk. Qi County City is not far from Donglan City, at least much closer than the 300 kilometers of Yangbai City. If Donglan City was still there, the rabbits would definitely go to the door to argue. But unfortunately, this city had fallen into the mouth of monsters not long ago. The beast tide that attacked Qi County City was part of another large beast tide. After the large beast tide descended through the Monster World channel, it was divided into many, and one of them rushed to Donglan City. I don't know if any classmates still remember it. That batch of beasts at that time was completely different from previous years. In addition to the apparent leader, there were also several other second-level monsters hidden in the beast group. This situation was later attributed to the arrangement of the fourth-level monster behind Huazaya Amo. Fortunately, Qi County City had the help of Rabbit, and was finally saved. However, Donglan City did not have that kind of ancestor who traveled through time, and the middle city was the main target of the beast tide, so the result of the entire city falling was not entirely unexpected. However, Donglan City is a city of tens of thousands of people after all. Even if the city gate is really breached, there are still some refugees who can escape. After all, people are different from those computer AIs. They will not wait stupidly for you to kill them without any reaction. When they see that the situation is not good, they will run away immediately. This is what most people do. Perhaps most people will be caught up and killed by monsters later, but there are always some lucky ones who can escape successfully. If nothing unexpected happens. Among the refugees that Qi County City collected earlier, there must be people from Donglan City. It's nothing more than whether they know or have contacted the barbarian caravan. Then Lin Li looked at Zhang Guanghu and said, "Xiao Zhang, I remember that our census was completed a long time ago, right? Now go to the database and check how many of them are refugees from Donglan City." Understood. Zhang Guanghu quickly opened the database and found the native place sample from the model. In a moment, a new list appeared. Zhang Guanghu took a quick look and said, "Captain Lin, the results are out. There are a total of 157 people from Donglan City and Qi County, and they have been resettled in Zicheng District. Except for an 80-year-old man who died last month due to physical weakness and ineffective rescue, the remaining 156 are still alive. According to the records on the form, there are a total of 33 people who have participated in large-scale trade, and there are also several people engaged in the fabric industry." Looking at Zhang Guanghu, who uttered a light exclamation, Lin Li couldn't help but ask, "Xiao Zhang, what's wrong?" "No big deal, just a little unexpected." Zhang Guanghu quickly came back to his senses and pointed to the screen and said, "That Zhao Kaianzhu is from Donglan City, and he was a big tailor under the name of the Zhu family in Donglan City." Note, see chapter 48. Lin Li was stunned when he heard this. Zhao Kaianzhu? Is he the one who was recommended as an activist by political commissar Wang together with Wen Timu, and his wife opened a restaurant opposite the factory? Zhang Guanghu nodded. Yes, it's him. Those who are familiar with human-based databases should know. There are generally two ways to sort the database. One is to sort by initials, and the other is to sort by weight. The table in Zhang Guanghu's hand is classified by weight as the main means of sorting. After all, there are so many refugees in Qi County City, and the first thing that catches your eye must be the important figures among the refugees, otherwise the task of searching will be large. Just like everyone playing on Mayaji, the ranking of SSR in the card library must be at the top. What? You ask which SSR? Of course it's the little deer man. Are there any other SSRs besides it? At this time, Zhao Kaianzhu happened to be in Qi County City, so he was taken to the meeting room soon. "Brother Kaianzhu, hello." After Zhao Kaianzhu entered the house, Lin Li took the initiative to stand up and greeted him. Although Zhao Kaianzhu has been elected as an activist, his own experience still needs to be strengthened. It cannot be said that he should be promoted to an inappropriate height for the sake of superficial articles. Therefore, Lin Li still chose to treat the title of the masses. Facing a room full of bigwigs, Zhao Qianzhu was inevitably a little nervous at this time. "Hello, Mr. Lin." "Hello, leaders." Lin Li smiled and patted his shoulder, signaling him to relax. Then he took him to a seat and asked, "Brother Qianzhu, I asked you to come here this time mainly because I want to ask you something. If I remember correctly, you should be from Donglan City, right? And you have also worked as a tailor for the Zhu family." Zhao Qianzhu nodded quickly. "Yes, I was born and raised in Donglan City. My father's generation has been a tailor. The Zhu family will look for me for anything." Lin Li nodded gently. "I see. Then do you remember that the Zhu family once traded with some barbarians?" "Ah, barbarians?" Zhao Qianzhu was stunned when he heard this. Lin Li's question was a little unexpected to him. He originally thought that Lin Li was looking for him to understand some of the conditions on the construction site. But he quickly came to his senses and began to retrieve fragments of his past memories. After a while, he suddenly thought of something, his eyes lit up, and he said hesitantly, "Mr. Lin, now that you asked me this, I really remember something. In my memory, it seems that there is indeed a barbarian merchant caravan that comes to Donglan City every once in a while. Sometimes it's 1 or 2 years apart, sometimes it's more than 10 big days apart. Anyway, they come every few days. I don't know what the specific goods are, but I can be sure that there are a lot of monster furs, especially purple velvet fox furs." Note: 3 updates today. Please vote for me. Does anyone want to watch the live broadcast of the Zhuhai Air Show? It seems that I have the live broadcast permission. Laugh. By the way, I recommend this book. The content is not bad. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 372 Major Discovery. In the temporary meeting room. Hearing Zhao Qianzhu's words, Lin Li's pupils shrank slightly. "Purple velvet fox? Are you sure?" Zhao Qianzhu seemed very confident this time, and he grinned. "Mr. Lin, I'm not bragging, there are really not many people in Donglan City who can compare with me in fabrics. Like the bus back then, I can guess how much the fabric on the seat is worth by just touching it. So every time there is purple velvet fox fur arriving, the Zhu family will ask me to go over to inspect the goods. I really don't know if there are other goods, and I dare not brag, but there are definitely purple velvet fox and other monster furs." Lin Ziming heard this and secretly looked at Chao Hong. Then the two sides nodded at the same time in tacit understanding. The situation described by Zhao Qianzhu was almost the same as what Qilin said, and the purple velvet fox, the commodity, was completely consistent with the transaction information described by Qilin. It has to be said. This is a very critical information. After Zhao Qianzhu left, Lin Li and others asked several refugees who were also from Donglan City and whose original industries were related to trade. Some of these migrant workers knew nothing about the existence of the barbarians, while others revealed a lot of important information. Some were about the number of caravans, and some were about traded goods. A migrant who had worked as a worker for Zhu's family had seen Qilin himself, and identified him through the footage taken by Lin Ziming's recorder. In the end, it was determined that Qilin was the leader of the caravan that had previously traded with Donglan City. At this point, the authenticity of the barbarian chamber of commerce had been determined. In other words, the tribe behind Qilin was indeed capable of periodic trade, rather than taking the opportunity to get a bite of meat and then disappearing. Yang Ke no longer insisted on her own opinion. After all, her own entry and exit points were also based on risks. Since there was no risk at the moment, she naturally supported Shi Zheng's view of long-term trade. Seeing this, Lin Li coughed lightly and was about to summarize and unify everyone's opinions. However, before he could open his mouth, he was interrupted by a figure who suddenly rushed over. "Report to Captain Lin, there is a major discovery. The people who could enter the meeting place at this time must be the middle and high-level members of the camp." Lin Li was shocked when he heard this. He looked over quickly. He saw that the person was wearing a white lab coat, panting, and his hair was wet with sweat and stuck tightly to his forehead. It was Wang Jun, the leader of the chemistry team who had previously identified Mo Pidong's bones. Not long ago, Wang Jun's team had just received another task, analyzing the chemical composition of the blazing stone. Therefore, Lin Li's mind raced, and he immediately realized something, and took the initiative to ask, "Researcher Wang, have you made any new discoveries with a fiery stone?" However, to his surprise, Wang Jun actually shook his head. "Captain Lin, it's not the fiery stone. Although the characteristics of the fiery stone are very special, self-heating ores are not uncommon in our country. According to our detection, there is a special catalytic substance in the fiery stone. It can cause the air to react with a certain substance in the ore at a low temperature, thereby releasing a certain amount of heat. As for the so-called forging effect of the fiery stone on the human body, it is still under observation. This kind of experiment will definitely not be able to observe specific phenomena in the short term." Hearing this, Lin Li couldn't help but wonder, "It's not the fiery stone? Then what is it?" Before he finished the second half of the sentence, he reacted by himself. Could it be that stone whistle? Wang Jun exhaled heavily and said affirmatively, "Yes, it's the stone whistle." A hint of curiosity flashed through Lin Li's mind, and he quickly asked Wang Jun to sit down, and signaled Zhang Guanghe to pour a glass of water. "Researcher Wang, everyone present is an expert with access to confidential information. Feel free to speak up if you have any findings." Wang Jun nodded, carefully took out a box from his body, and solemnly placed it on the table. The packaging of the box was similar to that of the diamond ring box, with a black base whose material could not be seen at the bottom, and a transparent glass cover at the top. The stone whistle was placed safely in the middle. At the same time, Wang Jun took out a report and handed it to Lin Li. "Captain Lin, please take a look at this." Lin Li took the report with curiosity and read it carefully. Phenol guanidine adsorption rate 24.5%, air-dried basis under ash content mark 28.68, received basis 26.10, low volatile heat 4423, spectrophotometry of ophenanthroline. The data on the table was very complicated, and few people could probably only recognize the words but not understand the content. But for an authoritative expert like Lin Li, it was not a difficult task. As his eyes swept over, Lin Li suddenly had an inexplicable strange feeling in his heart. From the perspective of material, although the composition of the stone whistle is different from most rocks, it is not so outrageous that it makes people stunned. If the rarity of the spirit stone is 1000, the moon's unique creep rock is 200, and the ordinary granite is 1. Then according to the data in the first half of the inspection report, the stone whistle is at most 30 or 40. That is, it is not common in normal times, but you can always get it if you put in some effort. There are many such discoveries in the Great Mo realm, and theoretically it will not attract the attention of Lin Li or the rabbits. But the strange thing is that even for such a stone, its research report gave Lin Li a very inconsistent sense of déjà vu, as if he had seen it somewhere before. He looked at the report with a little doubt until his eyes locked on one of the columns of thermal field emission scanning electron microscope. That is, FESM report results. Photosensitive capacity 20.531 inches. Suddenly, he raised his head abruptly, staring at Wang Jun. After a moment, two words came out of his mouth. "Slate." Wang Jun nodded heavily, his tone solemn. "Yes, it is the stone slate in the secret room of the Mo family, which is suspected to be left by a high-tech civilization." Hearing Wang Jun's mention, Lin Ziming, who didn't understand what happened, also reacted. "Is it the stone slate that is suspected to predict the future and has a figure like Wu Fan engraved on it?" "Yes, it is that stone slate." Wang Jun took a deep breath and explained, "We have conducted many studies on the stone whistle, and the results I got surprised me. I found that the material of the stone whistle itself is exactly the same as the stone slate. It is a type of ore that is rarely seen in the Great Mo realm. If the capacitance capacity is not taken into account, the rarity of this ore is about the same as that of the local lanthanide rare earth. But if its unique capacitance characteristics are added, it is very, very special." When teacher Ming Mao broke through the deduction method, Wang Jun's team happened to have a major discovery in the study of the stone slate. The stone slate is at least 2 million years old, and high-intensity residual energy levels of electrons were detected on the stone slate. In other words, the image on the stone slab is suspected to have been engraved by laser. At that time, Lin Li and his team used this as a starting point to deduce the possibility that there might be a super-ancient civilization in the Damo world. In addition, a stone slab must be able to detect the residual energy level of electrons 2 million years ago, which means that it itself has a certain capacitance, which can ensure that electrons do not overflow. And ordinary stones are not good conductors of electricity. This is knowledge that junior high school students know. Therefore, the material of the stone slab is a rare mineral with rare chemical properties and even rarer physical properties. At present, the material of the stone whistle and the stone slab is the same. This is a bit terrifying when you think about it carefully. Note, the third update is still in the early morning, so there is no need to wait deliberately. Chapter 373, Transactions and Trials. As we all know, in most cases, stones are poor conductors of electricity. It is even possible to say that stones are not conductive. Of course. Let's not talk about the situation where they become plasma under ultra-high pressure or ultra-high temperature. It's just like you can make your slippers taste good by putting them in the century-old brine for half an hour. The main reason has nothing to do with the material. Stones cannot conduct electricity, so it is naturally difficult to store the residual energy of electrons. It can be said that among all the ores discovered so far, there is no stone that can serve as a long-lasting capacitor. Even in the Great Mo realm, this situation is exactly the same. At present, the rabbits have discovered many new types of compounds in the Great Mo realm, and there are also many ores. The most common spirit stone is one of them. And among these stones, there is still no one with capacitor properties. Therefore, the command has reason to judge that the raw material of the stone slab is definitely some very rare ore. Its possible generation environment includes the speculation that the region is special. Now that the stone whistle and the stone slab have detected the same composition, can it be said that there is such a geographical environment behind the Mingayu Mountains? Even more boldly, if the rarity of this ore is higher than the rabbits expected, and the environment in which it is generated is more demanding than expected, then is it possible to come up with such a guess? The unknown area behind the Shanghai Mountains is the raw material site for the polished stone slabs of that super-ancient civilization? In this case, is it possible that the super-ancient civilization left any special traces there? For example, more residual electricity, stone slabs, or even relics. The many experts attending the meeting are not fools. Even Yan Ke, a foreign trade person who is more inclined to economics, thought of this possibility at this time. In an instant, the atmosphere of the entire meeting suddenly became a little subtle. Just as everyone's mind was wandering, Dai Chao Hong spoke again. Everyone, I think the actual weirdness is more than that. There is another thing wrong right now. That is the demands of this barbarian caravan. Lin Li looked at him in surprise. Caravan demands. Dai Chao Hong picked up the water cup to moisten his throat, and then explained, yes, I did a simple calculation and found that Shilling's demands seem to have some problems. First of all, let's make it clear that Shilling and his people are indeed planning to find a long-term trading partner, not just shoot and run. According to what Shilling said, there are more than 20,000 people in the Yange tribe. Even if the barbarians have a bigger appetite, it is almost equivalent to the food intake of 30,000 ordinary people in the central area. When we first arrived in Qi County, the total population of Qi County was more than 15,000. It is exactly half of the above number. Do you remember how much food we consumed at that time? Looking at the people who were gradually falling into contemplation, Dai Chao Hong reported a number: 60 tons of rice, 24 tons of vegetables, 8 tons of pork, and 3,000 boxes of 50-pack instant noodles. It took half a month to consume all the above food. Now a pound of rice is more than 3 yuan, and 60 tons is 360,000 Chinese yuan. 24 tons of vegetables is only 100,000 yuan, and pork is about 200,000 or 300,000. Counting those instant noodles, 1.2 million is definitely enough, right? Admittedly, the local prices are much cheaper than those in the Great Mo realm. But even if you buy them at the prices of the Great Mo realm, the value of these foods is only about 4 million. Don't you think it's strange compared to Shilling's demands? Note, the prices of the Great Mo realm have been explained and calculated in the chapter on the shelves, and the author said, after hearing what Dai Chao Hong said, Lin Li couldn't help but have a thought in his mind. It seems a bit strange. Shilling and Lin Ziming are talking about a long-term and continuous trade relationship, and the cycle is calculated as once a year. That is the original consumption cycle of the 24 Chixin cities. 4 million multiplied by 2, and then 24, is only a little over 100 million Chinese currency. This value is calculated according to the price of goods in the Great Mo realm. The command center of Shilling's trading volume this time has roughly estimated it. If nothing unexpected happens, the total trade volume will be at least half higher than that of Ziqiang market, which is about 150,000 or 160,000 spiritual stones. The ratio of spiritual stones to Chinese currency is 1, 6,100, so these spiritual stones converted into Chinese currency are close to 1 billion and 100 million. This is not something that can be explained by ordinary errors. Obviously, there must be a huge secret behind the emergence of the entire barbarian chamber of commerce. Either the population of the Yange tribe has increased tenfold, or Chilling and his men have other uses for the food. Not to mention the barbarian cultivation system that the rabbits wanted to get from the beginning, which is also a big pit. The origin of the stone whistle, the reason why the barbarians need a lot of food, and the cultivation method of the body refining system. These are the three most critical issues. The meeting was almost over. Finally, everyone voted and reached a final consensus: officially open trade with the barbarian chamber of commerce, and make appropriate concessions in exchange for the intention of cooperation. And wait for an opportunity to find out more about the problems of the stone century and the cultivation system. As for the secrets behind the demand for food, at least in this trade, it is not appropriate to explore the bottom. 5 hours later, Lin Ziming, who had received new instructions, brought a shopping list and found Chilling again. Commander Chilling, the adults in the city have agreed to trade with you. This is our trading list, and all the supplies on it can be exchanged. There are many rare specialties in Chixin City, and the instant noodles and canned beef you saw before are just one of them. The adults mean that if Commander Chilling is not in a hurry, can he live here for a while? Get to know all our supplies before placing an order. If you are interested, we can also bring people into the city for a visit. As the saying goes, it is better to guard against thieves than friends. Chilling listened quietly to the translation of Master Yan, and discussed with another old barbarian beside him for a while, and finally said, the time given by the tribe this time is very ample, so it is naturally no problem to stay for 1 or 2 more days. But Manager Lin, I don't know the price of the supplies you gave this time. Lin Ziming smiled when he heard this, pointed to the trading list and said, Commander Chilling, the prices are all above. For example, the white elephant instant noodles you ate before, 1 spirit stone can be exchanged for 20 boxes, each box contains 50 packs. In other words, 1 blazing stone can be exchanged for 2 boxes of 100 packs, which is enough for 1 person to eat for 50 days. 1 person for 50 days. That is, enough for 50 people to eat for 1 day. Chilling spent 10 seconds to do a calculation problem that a local 5-year-old child could do, and then he was overjoyed. Manager Lin, how many of these instant noodles do you have? I want them all. Sure enough, the other party's demand for food was not right. Lin Ziming's expression did not change, and at the same time he stretched out his hand to press him, indicating that he should calm down. Hey, Commander Chilling, don't worry. We have a lot of supplies, and instant noodles will get boring if you eat too much. You can also look at other things, such as this self-heating rice and instant snail noodles are good. Then Lin Ziming spent half an hour introducing the rabbit's food. Then looking at the excited Chilling, he pretended to ask casually, by the way, Commander Chilling, my child likes the stone whistle you gave me earlier. But there are many children in my family, and it's hard to share one. I wonder if you can tell me, how much is this stone worth and where is it from? If it's suitable, I want to buy a few in my name and give them to my children. Note, the 3rd update is here. Please vote for me, and I will try to update 3 more times tomorrow. Chapter 374 Another Holy Mountain. As a single man in his 30s, Lin Ziming always felt a little weak when he said the word many children. However, Chilling did not have the National Anti-Fraud Center app software, so he did not know that the manager Lin in front of him, who always talked about his family and children, was actually a miserable single man who is urged to get married every year. He was stunned for a moment, and then said naturally, Manager Lin, you may not know. The material used to make the stone whistle is not the blazing stone you have seen before, but another kind of strange holy stone. Holy stones are not common behind the Shanghai mountains, and can only be found in the holy mountains where many tribes make pilgrimages together. Lin Ziming glanced at the big man lightly and keenly noticed a key point, holy mountain. Then he looked at Shi Yin and confirmed, Zio Shi, is the semantics of this word accurate? Will there be any errors caused by translation? Shi Yin shook his head seriously, and was not dissatisfied with being questioned. As the first translator to come into contact with a relevant vocabulary, she even realized the importance of this word earlier than Lin Ziming. Colonel Lin, the word holy mountain is an independent word in the Damo language, just like our native Taihang mountains. It has a unique meaning and there will be no problem in translating it. Lin Ziming touched his chin thoughtfully and murmured, holy mountain, If I remember correctly, the location of Yaok is also a sacred mountain of the western region survivors, right? The tribe of the survivors is the Zangling Plateau. Although the Zangling Plateau has long been destroyed, the fact that it once existed cannot be erased. You know, before the collision of the demon world, the Zangling Plateau, like the Shanghai Mountains, was also one of the dangerous places in the Damo world. It is also one of the dangerous places, and it also has the name of the Holy Mountain. This is a bit intriguing. Then Lin Ziming looked at Qilin, deliberately put on a curious look, and asked, Commander Qilin, may I ask where the Holy Mountain is? Can you tell me in detail? If you can't buy the stone whistle, you can bring back some new stories to tell the children. Of course. If it involves the secrets of the Yange tribe, then just pretend that I haven't asked. Qilin heard this and waved his hand very cheerfully. The Holy Mountain is not a secret. Even the smallest tribe knows of its existence. It's just that since ancient times, it has been difficult for the area behind the Shanghai Mountains to communicate with the central area, and the caravans did not deliberately publicize the matter of the Holy Mountain, so the spread is not so wide. Manager Lin, you should know. The tribes behind the Shanghai Mountains are extremely scattered, and they rarely communicate with each other. But no matter whether it is the largest tribe of 1 million people or a small wandering tribe of 400 or 500 people, they all have a common belief, that is the Holy Mountain. After speaking, Qilin paused, his expression suddenly became solemn, and continued, it is said that a long time ago, there was a huge country behind the Shanghai Mountains, which was divided from the central region. That country was magnificent, and the royal court stood above the heavens, looking down on the world with pride. As for the Holy Mountain, it was the gateway to the royal court and the high platform for national worship at the beginning of each year. However, one day countless years ago, the royal court collapsed inexplicably, and the Holy Mountain also collapsed. Within a few years, many powerful tribes became independent. This is how the current situation behind the Shanghai Mountains came about. However, as time passed, the big men of many tribes suddenly discovered that only after worshipping the Holy Mountain, the power in the blood of the barbarians would be stimulated, and only then could they embark on the path of body training. Later, the 8 largest tribes among the barbarians held a discussion and formed a Holy Mountain sacrificial group, agreeing to hold a grand sacrifice every 6 years. During the grand sacrifice, all the children in the tribes who had not awakened would be sent to the Holy Mountain for training, and rewards would be placed at different locations on the Holy Mountain. The stone for the stone sentry was what I got from the mountainside when I was a child. It was also one of the best achievements of the Yange tribe. The main part of the stone was made into a stone sword and given to my eldest brother, and the rest was made into the stone sentry by me. Lin Ziming listened quietly and put on a look of surprise. So that's it, Commander Qilin. It seems that I was rude. Then he secretly looked at the recorder on his chest and confirmed that Qilin's words were collected into the sample library. It is not difficult for a discerning person to see that Qilin's expression has a very obvious mythological color. Therefore, the content cannot be fully trusted. Of course, this expression may not be Qilin's subjective will, but he described it like this after accepting the legend of his predecessors. However, even if Qilin's painting contains a certain amount of exaggeration, the origin of the Holy Mountain is definitely not ordinary. Barbarians, as the word means. There is some barbarism in their nature. That is, as the saying goes, undisciplined. Therefore, it is impossible for the Holy Mountain itself to have something to make the barbarians with extraordinary powers spontaneously hold a worship ceremony. Then Lin Ziming asked again, Qilin Commander, have you never been to the Holy Mountain since then? Qilin glanced at him, shook his head and sighed. Manager Lin, a barbarian can only enter the Holy Mountain once in his life. The second time he enters, he will be blocked by a special force. In addition, the Holy Mountain is located very far behind the Shanghai Mountains, and it takes at least a year to travel there and back. Tribal life is not easy, so naturally there is no leisure to go to the Holy Mountain to play. Lin Ziming nodded gently and memorized all the information in his mind. Judging from Qilin's words this time, there seems to be no teleportation array or other super-distance teleportation props behind the Shanghai Mountains. It seems difficult to travel long distances. As for the flying boat, it is hard to say. Maybe there is, maybe not. After all, judging from the so-called foot distance alone, it is a bit too arbitrary to judge that it depends entirely on walking. Then Lin Ziming thought of something, took out a bag of Weilong spicy strips from his pocket, tore it open and handed it to Chillin. "Come, Commander Chillin, try this, let's talk while we eat." Chillin took the spicy strips with curiosity. His nose twitched a few times, and then he carefully ate a small piece, and then his eyes lit up. Delicious. Lin Ziming looked at Chillin with a smile, without saying anything. Weilong spicy strips. This is a food selected by the command after careful analysis. Although there is a condiment similar to chili in the Damo realm, the taste of spicy is not the mainstream taste. Because chili has the effect of warming the middle and lowering the qi, stimulating appetite and digestion, and dispelling cold and dampness, it is mainly spread in low temperature or humid areas. For example, in the native southern Hunan, there is a saying of 3 rivers and 4 rivers. The Lishu River flows through Zhangjiaji, the Yuanjiang River flows through Chongdong, the Zishu River passes through Anhu and Shaoyuan, and the Zhangjiang River passes through Yangzhou, Hengyuan, and Changsha. All 4 rivers flow northward into Dongting Lake, and all water systems are north-oriented. The direction of the water system can prove that the mountain range is high in the south and low in the north. There are many hills in the mountains, which naturally form a natural barrier. The south of Hunan province is like a screen blocking the climate from the north, so it snows in the north of Guangdong province, and it rarely snows in the south of Nanling. Another proof of the concentration of water vapor is the snow disaster in 2008, which I will not go into here. And coincidentally, the trend of the Shanghai Mountains is also high in the south and low in the north. More importantly, the outermost dangerous area of the east region adjacent to the south region is the Xingqian Sea. Although the specific pattern between the dangerous areas is unclear, if nothing unexpected happens, there must be a certain intersection between the Xingqian Sea and the back of the Shanghai Mountains. According to the information the rabbits have, the Xingqian Sea is always windy and turbulent, and it roars non-stop. Therefore, at the contact surface of the 2 dangerous areas, there must be water vapor entering the inland. Once there is a lot of water vapor, things like peppers that can die will naturally have a place to use. So the rabbits didn't just give out random supplies, they were all well prepared. While Chillin was chewing on the spicy strips, a barbarian suddenly ran over in a panic. Note, there are double monthly tickets for the rewards these few nights. A reward of 1,500 yuan will give you 4 tickets. Do you see the hint in my eyes? Space. I just arrived in Zhuhai and finished the hotel check-in procedures. If nothing unexpected happens, I won't be able to go to the air show tomorrow. My plan is to write tomorrow and go to the air show from the 1st to the 3rd. I am still looking forward to this air show. There may be 1 or 2 chapters in the early morning. The updates have not been interrupted this month. I ask for your approval for the occasional delay. In addition, Zhuhai is in Guangdong. Are you serious about the classmate who asked me to go to Zhuhai to eat Wenqiang chicken? It's not the sea, it's the territory of Hainan. Chapter 375 Yan Fern. At the camp of the Barbarian Chamber of Commerce. Hearing the urgent call of the visitor, Chillin frowned immediately, and then chatted with the other party. Tianxi said that he did not translate this talk, obviously it involved some things inside the caravan. After a few seconds, Chillin forced a smile with apology to Lin Ziming, and then hurried away. Lin Ziming was slightly stunned when he saw this. After coming to his senses, he hesitated for a while, and then said to Shi Yin and others around him, "Zio Shi, let's go and see, maybe there's anything we can help." Since Chillin did not order them to leave, it means that the incident is a situation where they can go or not. Therefore, from the perspective of intelligence, Lin Ziming naturally followed the snake stick. The camp of the Chamber of Commerce is not large and very simple after all. The predecessor is simply a piece of open space outside the city, and the terrain cannot be complicated. Therefore, Lin Ziming and his friends walked a few steps and soon came to the vicinity of a tent. When the few people were less than 5 meters away from the tent, a strong stench suddenly came from the tent. Lin Ziming, the big man, was relatively easy to deal with. After all, if you look at the data, he is at least a T1 level Special Forces soldier. Although he has not experienced various difficult conditions in real life, he has simulated them in training. In addition, he was born in a peasant family. He has been running around the cowshed since he was a child, and he has to pick up manure and apply fertilizer every day. So when he smelled the smell, Lin Ziming's expression was relatively normal. He just frowned slightly, and there was not much discomfort. Another person who came with the team to find an opportunity to study the blazing stone, Wang Qiang, had no problem either. After all, he was a biologist, and eating snail noodles with a bloody experimental subject was a basic skill. But Shi Yin was different. Although this girl did not have the princess syndrome of not touching spring water, this kind of stench was not something that ordinary people could bear. Not to mention that her previous work environment was in the field of external relations, which was considered high-end by ordinary people, and she had never been exposed to such bad conditions. Since she started working, she had only encountered a situation in that palace where someone had shit in their pants and the stench was everywhere. Therefore, when she suddenly smelled the stench, Shi Yin couldn't help but cover her mouth and ran to the side to vomit. Wang Qiang, who was standing by, saw this and stepped forward and patted Shi Yin on the back. "Xiao Shi, are you okay? If you are not feeling well, you'd better not go in." Shi Yin rolled her eyes when she heard this, but waved her hands firmly. "It's okay, I'll just bear with it. Translation is my job, and you won't understand what Qilin says if I don't go in." As a male comrade, Lin Ziming was not in a position to comfort her at this time, so he could only look at her with concern. "Translation is not a problem. We are only half a step away from the Xinhao camp, which is considered the hinterland. At worst, we can just ask another translator to come over. The key is your health, Colonel Lin." "I'm really fine." Faced with Lin Ziming's suggestion, Shi Yin showed a capable personality that matched her short hair at this moment. Although her face was still a little ugly, she stood up stubbornly. After taking a deep breath, she looked at Lin Ziming calmly. "Colonel Lin, Shi Yin, the External Liaison Department Station Officer in, has been adjusted and requests to continue the mission." Looking at this stubborn little girl, Lin Ziming opened his mouth but did not speak. Then he sighed with some complexity and said, "In this case, let's go in together." After that, he walked in front and lifted the curtain of the tent. This tent is a large-scale facility for disaster relief. Its function is mainly to accommodate patients, so the volume is very large and can accommodate more than 20 people. When Lin Ziming and his friends walked into the tent, Qilin was talking to several barbarians of different ages around a bed brought by the caravan. The stench that everyone smelled before entering the door came from the bed. Perhaps in order to leave breathing space, there were a lot of wide gaps between the positions where Qilin and others stood, and the field of vision could clearly see the situation on the bed. At this moment, a thin male barbarian was lying on the bed, his face flushed, his forehead sweating, his limbs trembling slightly. The lower half of his body was covered with only a blanket, and below that was a spittoon that was common in the childhood of the post-90s generation. The spittoon was filled with a lot of excrement, mixed with a lot of pus and blood, and the style was extremely disgusting. Next to this barbarian, there was an old man who looked like a doctor feeding him some kind of herbal medicine. Lin Ziming had a vague guess in his mind, then looked at Qilin and asked, "Qilin Commander, who is this brother?" Qilin did not show much surprise at Lin Ziming's appearance. He looked at the patient with a heavy face, led a few people to the entrance of the tent, and sighed. "His name is Gu Tong. He is the accountant of the barbarian caravan, somewhat similar to the accountant of the central domain. As you can see, he has Tian Fern. This is a common disease in the barbarian tribes, and the mortality rate is very high below the Cation realm. To be honest with Manager Lin, in the barbarian tribes, a large number of ordinary people die from Tian Fern every year." Lin Ziming raised his eyelids and looked at him, and asked in some surprise, "Qilin Commander, is there no magical medicine to cure this disease?" Although he did not know the specific symptoms of Tian Fern, it was not difficult to judge from what Qilin said. Tian Fern must be an infectious disease. Infectious diseases are extremely common in the history of the local area, and a large number of tragic cases have been recorded in the entire history of human civilization. For example, the Black Death and cholera in Europe, plague, smallpox, and so on also appeared in ancient China. Especially in the period when medicine was not well developed, an infectious disease could easily lead to the extinction of a small civilization. But the Great Mo realm is different. It has magical medicines and elixirs. Although the medical level of the Great Mo realm has not developed to the microscopic field, the therapeutic effect of some magical pills is even several times better than the various local medicines. Therefore, in theory, this infectious disease should not be a terminal illness. Facing Lin Ziming's doubts, Qilin smiled bitterly. "Manager Lin, magical medicine can certainly cure the sky fern. For example, the first-level Kingning pill in the central area, the medicinal soup mixed with Yuang Tang and Fuling Kao behind the Xianyu Mountains, etc., may even be cured with one dose." But Manager Lin, Do you know that the disease of the sky fern will not recur after successful treatment? On the contrary, its recurrence rate is very high. Besides, whether it is Kingdom pills or Yuan Tang and Fueling KO, they are all spiritual plants and are very valuable. 1 or 2 plants don't matter, but how many people are there in the entire tribe? Even some large tribes can't afford to take these spiritual plants for a long time. In the tent, as he spoke, Chilin's expression became somewhat melancholy. Just as he said, when an infectious disease with a high recurrence rate appears, it is not very useful and economically impractical to cure it with only spiritual medicine. Unless you can cure the root cause and it will not recur after 1 dose, and obviously, the sky fern does not belong to this situation. Therefore, the Yange tribe established a rule a long time ago: the direct descendants of the tribe can take spiritual medicine once when the sky fern is sick, and the ordinary tribesmen can take it according to the situation and contribution. If it recurs for the second time, except for the direct descendants of the tribe, the rest of the people have no right to take spiritual medicine again. The barbarian named Gutong on the bed belongs to the former. Although he is a direct descendant of the Yange tribe, he had contracted the sky fern once 5 years ago. Although he finally saved his life, he also used up his quota. Therefore, when the sky fern relapses this time, he can only try his luck like lottery by using other ordinary herbs. Lin Ziming couldn't help but sigh when he heard this. It has to be said, this is indeed a very tragic thing, especially for the individual who is sick. It is almost the same as waiting to die. Then he continued to ask, Commander Chilin, I wonder what the symptoms of this fern are? Why is it so troublesome? Perhaps he wanted to find an excuse to vent his distress, so Chilin did not hide it. Those who get the fern will first have a fever all over the body, and then weakness in the limbs. Then there will be abdominal pain, and the excretion will be thick and even contain pus and blood. Finally, they will have difficulty breathing and die in frustration. Lin Ziming was originally listening quietly, but the more he listened, the wider his eyes opened. At the end, he blurted out a sentence, "Fuck, isn't this dysentery?" End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.